Live, 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 live. Hello, VOD viewers, and Ellen and Dean who are here in chat before the show has even begun. It's time for more Umineko. Umineko! I gotta give people time to show up, though. Hello, Sarah. What's this about a witch? Well, she goes, and then kills a bunch of people. That's mainly what happens, I think. All right, I was going to talk about some stuff at the top, just, I don't know, kill time. Here's some of my plans of stuff that's coming soon. I'm going to release the second issue of my magazine soon. And then I'm going to do a video about Elfenlied on the 17th because that's the 20th anniversary of the show ending. I actually just kind of wrote this script before even realizing that, and then looked it up, and then was like, wow, what incredible. It's like the Great Magnet was telling me, hey, by the way, there's an anniversary coming up. Write about this. And I'm working on a big Jujutsu Kaisen script, and when I say big, I mean like really, really long. But I want to analyze the whole series because it's now over. The manga, I mean. I want to talk about the entire manga. It's a nice horror series to cover for good old Spook Month. Have I decided to cancel Brigadoon Live? Is it your fault? I was under the impression you've been busy, Lucario, because you've been talking about trying to get your, like, not get kicked out of your house or whatever. I don't know if you're like available, but if you want to organize finishing that, we can figure that out at some point. Yeah, no, I was just under the impression you were busy doing other things. You have a job? That's cool. That's good. Anyway, returning to this, I've got this Jujutsu Kaisen video in the works. Whenever we finish episode 2 of this game, I'll be able to put together the next gigantic compilation of the whole episode at once. And then you may see here that I have been in talks with the artist formerly known as Mumkey Jones, Simeon Jimmy, about reviving our old dumbass, edgy, ridiculous podcast, Insufferable Social Media Argument, the podcast, because people have been begging me for this for ever since it ended, and I figured that people will probably pay for it. We're gonna do this in a way that you have to pay for it. I'm not gonna do it for free. I'm not gonna let people just casually have the Me and Mumkey comeback podcast. So maybe there'll be like clips or something that's free, but I do not want it to be free. People have asked for it too much. If people are gonna ask for it that much, they got to put their fucking money where their mouth is, or they're not gonna get it. I might even have to find a way to make it like pre-orderable, maybe like a Kickstarter to do it, or like a season or something. But I'm not doing it without it making money. But we're planning it. We're in the planning stages. We've had talks. Also, I've talked about doing a big Tezuka thing, and originally I was gonna make one type of video out of that. I won't really go too deep into describing it, but the original plan I had basically got too big in scope to be feasible. So I think if I'm going to tackle Tezuka's career, I'm going to do it in like eras, because even just talking about Tezuka before Tetsuan Atom, I haven't finished writing that, but by itself will be like 5 or 6 hours long, maybe longer. I don't know. I haven't even made it through half of what predates that. So, but that's how I plan to tackle my Tezuka project, is to catch up to that. Are the old ones up anywhere you've never heard of this podcast? They should be. There's like 22 episodes, I think, and 1 or 2 bonus episodes. But yeah, just search for Insufferable Social Media Argument, the podcast. It's a bunch of specific people's very favorite thing I've ever done. And there are certain people who like insist that they've never stopped re-listening to it, that they are like obsessed with this podcast. And you know, I don't particularly think like the Procrastinators podcast was like very good or something that's worth going back to, but I understand why people would keep listening to the one with me and Mumkey, because it's like it's patently ridiculous in a way that makes it kind of timeless. Like both of us are just, how do I describe it? It's like we're taking current events and turning them into nonsense. Through the lens of pretending to have like a sincere social media style argument about it, but from the perspective of like such warped characters that it's impossible to have a real conversation through that perspective. So it's like a parody of having a conversation about current events, basically. It's very specific. That's why I think it could be revived successfully. But, again, I'm not going to do it for free. You wish you had the drive to do anything creative nowadays? All you have to do is think about how incredibly upset you'll be if you die tomorrow not having done any of it. I'm compelled entirely by thinking like I might die soon. Like I think about that a lot. I'm like just thinking I don't know. My existence is vaguely threatening to people in positions of power, like the more power I were to gain, the more I would feel like I was at risk. I don't feel well protected. I feel like the people who are fans of me are too scattershot, dissociated. They live all over the world. There's not like a strong sense of for my existence. So I'm like, basically, the only way I'm going to be able to get everything done that I want to do is like get it done right now, because if I get fucking sniped, no one's ever going to hear any of the ideas I had. Anyway, anyone reading this who likes Insufferable Social Media Argument should listen to Globe Hell Warning. It's the greatest podcast ever recorded. I have not heard of that one, but I'll look into Globe Hell Warning. Speaking of that, I sent my Naruto submission on Discord. Oh, all right, cool. I am running as administrator, Ellen. Lucaria says, I'm glad you two are friends again. I wouldn't go so... I don't... Work relationships and friendships should be kept separate. The reason I want to do a podcast with Mumkey is because I'm not friends with him. I am not friends with Mumkey. I've not spoken to him in any other context other than let's do a show together for money. That's the conversation we had is, hey, we can make a lot of money if we do a show together. I would much prefer if we did not become friends, which in fairness, Mumkey and I, the mentality we had back then was also, I was trying to make friends. He really was just trying to work. Like we when we got together the couple times we did, we worked nonstop. We just cranked out content, and oftentimes the content was almost like a parody of friendship content, like a parody of the idea of us being like best pals when really like we don't know each other at all, like we just got together. And you're autistic. The word friends is a placeholder for not enemies with us. Got to work on that. You can't let your autism make you think that you are in like a different group from the rest of humanity. We're all in the same group. We all have to figure out the same language. If you know your language has flaws, you got to fix the flaws. Because for me, there's a big. I don't have a lot of people I consider as friends, and most of the ones I do are not reliable. They're not people I want to work with because they're so unreliable. And like, that's fine. Like I would not working with my friends previously ruined my friendships. So, I'm glad I'm not working with most of the people I'm friends with. And it also makes those friendships not something that people get obsessed with and like project into, where like people still talk about me like after the PCP, I've like never had 5 friends again or something, like as though I don't talk to anybody because I don't do it publicly on podcasts all the time. Which is funny, but it's also kind of nice because it means that people aren't like investigating my friendships, Anyway, let's play this game. The one message that I sent of my Ted, Trixie reads and misunderstands that I'm going to whip my tail back and forth, Trixie. I probably read all of them and didn't respond to most of them. I typically do read like the whole chat. You always have to remember the key thing to always remember when watching this stream. Always remember this. I am fucking with you. It might be subtle. It might be like not even intentional all the time. It's just I am a troll by nature. It's like a mechanism in the back of my, like if I see that you're easy to fuck with, especially, I'm gonna fuck with you. And I'm not trying to like I'm usually not trying to lose people. I'm not trying to fuck with you that way. I want to kind of help you. It's like a bullying to make you stronger kind of a thing, I feel like as an adult, I can look back on my childhood and almost parse the difference between people who were like really maliciously bullying me and people who were like trying to help, but don't know how, besides to kind of trick you into realizing that what you're doing is embarrassing, which is something I can kind of respect, because I don't know if having an embarrassing experience is still enough to like send you into your feelings all day, you haven't had enough embarrassing experiences. That's why hazing exists. That's why, like, if you want to make it into the upper echelons of society, you have to like let them. Well, I mean, if you want to be like in P. Diddy's crew, you had to let him fuck you, but that's a bit much. I'm not gonna go that far. But I'm just saying, some level of hazing is required to get people's trust. To know that this person is understands the program of whatever is going on in your business or life. Anyway, I'm trying to get everybody psychologically in the right state of mind to play Umineko. I haven't really thought about this game between chapters as much, or between play sessions as much during episode 2. I feel like with episode 1, there was so much of like feeling drawn into like the psychology of the author and the characters and the world and like the idea of the setting. And with episode 2, it's been a lot more like here's a bunch of stuff you need to know before we go forward. It feels a lot more like going back and filling in the blanks and less revelatory. There hasn't been a lot of stuff that like makes me sit there and think about it. A lot of the emotional beats are kind of like going back. Like there's a lot more child abuse, but like it doesn't make me feel differently than it already made me feel, Episode 2 will pick up soon, but this is Ryukishi soon. Yeah, okay, well, no. Episode 1 is your hook. Yeah, for sure. And I know this is one where like it's doing a lot of legwork for stuff that's gonna matter later. Lucario said, by the way, in my new video tonight, I had major character growth and disowned a previous problematic character I liked, and I compared my development to you changing your opinions and growing. Interesting. So that's what that video is about. You saying, you know what? You're right. This character that as much as I love them, they are problematic. That's how I'm stuck there with mindless self-indulgence, where like I don't want to talk about the circumstances because I don't know enough. I've like read a Wikipedia, summary of what he's been accused of, and that's it. But it's like, man, I do believe you would do that, and that's the troubling thing. It's like I listen to the music and I'm just sitting there like, I think Jimmy did it. Like, God damn it. I love too much, like so deeply ingrained influence in me that I can't erase it, but I'm still sitting there like, I think Jimmy did it. I don't know. Maybe he would convince me otherwise, or maybe he'd admit to it. I have no idea. I don't know if I'd ever want to meet anybody that I admire that much. Not even admire, just was influenced by. I never particularly. We talk about Mr. Beast or P. Diddy. No, I'm talking about Jimmy Uringer from Mindless Self-Indulgence, the band that I'm a very big fan of, took a lot of influence from, and basically, I think he was accused of, like, when he was in his mid-20s, being with a girl who was, like, 17 and just making her do a lot of, like, weird, kinky stuff that probably I wouldn't be bothered by if she was maybe 2 or 3 years older, but just the fact that it's like an underage girl. I don't even know if she was underage by the legal system of whatever fucking state. New York, I think they actually have a lower age of consent, but I don't know. It's still just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, did Jimmy Urine of MSI seem like a sex creep based on what he presents? Yes, actually. But like, it's different. You feel like his art is him admitting to it. Exactly. Like it's kind of, you listen to it, you're like, oh, this is what you're talking about, and then you got to kind of think, is he ashamed? Or some of the music sounds a little ashamed. A lot of it just literally, it's called a mindless self-indulgence. It's like, yeah, fuck it, go for it. It's like kind of the theme of the music. And I'm like, I don't know if you should go for it that hard. Maybe there's a lines need to be drawn, but whatever. I'm in my 30s. I can say these kinds of things, I don't know. It must be harder the younger you are to like look at someone who you really like and who did something that you're not sure if it's necessarily like reprehensible so much as just kind of leaves you with a unsettled feeling of like, oh, I can't like you as much as I did like you, Yeah. Well, we'll see if we feel that way about Beatrice in this here video game, who I'm sure has done something heinous besides murder literally everyone at the first chapter, which didn't seem like necessarily a bad thing for some reason. It still doesn't read like Beatrice is the bad guy to me yet, just because, like, well, okay, she can apparently bring everybody back to life, or this is all metaphysical or metaphorical or something. How do I know you're really evil? Until I've seen the ending. 700,000 hours from now. All right. Maria hasn't come back. I wonder if she's being scolded by Auntie Rosa again. Ever since they had met Maria in the airport, she had constantly been making a huge fuss about Halloween. But it seemed she had cut loose a little too much, and acted a little too boisterous on the plane, on the boat, and during lunch, because Rosa had warned her several times. Isn't there a character in Chainsaw Man that can only say Halloween? In times like that, Auntie Rosa would rarely scold her in front of people. More commonly, she would call Maria into the shadows and scold her when they were alone. Since Maria had been called off somewhere, they thought she must be getting scolded. So they all know the score. They all have been acting like they didn't think Rosa was doing this, but they know. When they looked at the clock, they realized it was almost 6. They couldn't really imagine that Maria had been being scolded this whole time. Perhaps it had come time for some anime she watched every week to start or something. She had probably just decided to stay in the mansion's parlor. It could be that Battler-sama has woken up and they're playing together. Well, Maria-chan must have thought of Battler-kun as sort of a new friend. I'm sure she had tons of fun when she played Halloween with Battler-kun at the airport. Battler was messing around a lot himself. That dude's gotten big, but he hasn't changed a bit on the inside from how he used to be. That's true. I get the feeling that Battler-sama was gracious enough to remain as he was 6 years ago. Gracious enough to remain as he was, huh? Shannon, you remember how Battler-kun was 6 years ago?
Yes, because he was, well, very energetic.
Damn. She said that like he fucking dicked her down or something 6 years ago. This is how Andrew W.K. is described by people who knew him growing up. He was always very energetic, he said. I also remember how the four of us used to play 6 years ago. Shannon acted a lot like a big sister.
Yeah, I get the feeling she was more level-headed back then. But back then, I didn't know my place, so I must apologize for all my poor conduct.
There's no need for all those professional manners. Your work aside, when you're taking your break like you are now, I'd like it if we could all be friendly together like we were back then.
Yeah, totally. There's no reason why you can't separate the servant Shannon from the off-duty Sayo. You aren't a slave, you're just working a job as a servant, right?
I don't know. She seems to think she is furniture, so I would say slave is maybe even putting it lightly.
I think of you, Shannon, no, Sayo, as my oldest friend.
This is a fucked up, this is like Roots. Like, when that white girl is trying to be friends with the little black girl, but then, like, you know, her family has all of the power over their family.
Thank you very much, milady.
It seemed that Shannon understood what lurked under Jessica's words, because she had heard a little bit from Jessica and Kanon about what had happened between them. Apparently, George has also been informed about that, more or less. George approached the window and looked up at the darkening rainy sky.
Kanon-kun is still young, and I think in some ways he tries a little too hard to be mature in his way of thinking. Come on, quit it already. Well, it's my fault too. I think part of it was I got sucked in by the atmosphere. And, maybe after looking at you two, I got a little jealous and started feeling a little rushed. There might have been a bit of that too. Who cares about me anyway? More importantly, how's it going between you two? Looks like it's going pretty good, eh? I wonder.
Yeah, it's going very well. Shannon was lost for words, her face red, while George answered brightly and immediately. That carefree attitude made it obvious that their relationship was proceeding so perfectly it would make anyone envious.
I'm jealous. Does that mean Shannon's gonna be resigning and cutting up a cake pretty soon? I wonder.
I wonder, right? How could I know? George laughed like he was being mean and drew closer to Shannon. It was probably the way they usually flirted when they were alone. Jessica could only smile awkwardly and say, yes, thank you, that's enough. I have a dream. It isn't only my ambition to become the leader of my own domain in business. I also have a dream to build a family together with a partner I could spend my life with. I want 2 kids at the very least, oh boy. And I'd like to do some sports that the whole family could do together. And many more things besides that. Motherfuckers be over-planning their life. Like, see how you handle 1 kid? Then you can start thinking about 2 kids. I often talk with Shannon about that kind of thing. Although every time I talk about that sort of thing, Shannon always laughs and says I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, exactly. For some reason, even at the age I am now, I already find myself thinking about my retirement and settling down. Motherfucker, you ain't gonna live that long. With my healthy grown kids and grandchildren running around, about how nice it will be to spend my final years at a slow pace, surrounded by that and together with Shannon forever.
You're definitely getting ahead of yourself. But how should I say it? It sounds like you, George Nissan. Being surrounded by a family like that would probably be so wonderful. The ideal family that I painted in my mind when I was younger was something like that.
To Shannon, who had been raised in a welfare institute, that harmonious image of a family was probably something she yearned after. And George, who promised that he would definitely grant that wish for her, was surely a fitting person for her to spend her life with. Shannon was an important friend to Jessica. George was surely the one most fit to entrust that friend's future to.
Well, I don't want to throw cold water on you guys, but Uncle Hideyoshi aside, what's gonna happen with Auntie Ava? Won't it be tough to convince her?
There's no reason for anyone to worry about something like that. No one can influence my choice of partner. I will make Shannon happy. Whose permission do I need?
Whoa! George Nissan, that was cool. I can't believe you can say something so embarrassing out loud. I thought you didn't used to be that kind of character.
Leave a boy for 3 days and you'll hardly recognize him after all. Even I grew up. I plan to study more and more to grow to be a suitable man who can make Shannon happy. It seemed that perhaps George had some kind of awareness of how embarrassing the words coming out of his mouth were. His face turned very slightly red and he scratched his head.
George-san.
It's alright. I'm sure Mother will be difficult, but you can leave that to me. I'll show you that I can make the whole family accept you as my partner.
Awesome. I'm jealous of you, Shannon. Seriously. If you'll go so far, then I'm very grateful.
Wait a sec. I'm starting to feel like a third wheel here. Maybe it's better I leave? Smiling awkwardly, Jessica stood up from the bed she had been sitting on, and at that very moment the phone rang. Before Jessica picked up the receiver, wondering what they wanted, Shannon looked at the clock and was taken aback. It seemed that she had taken too long on her break.
I'm sorry. I forgot it was time for work. If you'll excuse me.
At the same time that Jessica picked up the phone, Shannon began dashing out of the room. Shannon. Again, same time, same place.
Yes. Excuse me.
Hello, it's Jessica. Genji-san. Yes, Shannon is heading your way as we speak. We held her up, I'm afraid. Please don't scold her. Yes, okay. I see. So it will be time for dinner to be prepared soon. I gotta say, Jessica and George are the hardest characters for me to like in this game so far. But it's Jessica doing shit like that. Like, not understanding that, like, like, you made the boss apologize for you. Is like, you're gonna double, like, not only were you late, but the people who are supposed to not even think about your existence also apologized for you. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't understand the relationships at all. And it's infuriating. Because she's just making shit worse for everybody while trying to make it better for them. Many plates were lined up on the counter in the kitchen, and preparations for dinner were proceeding steadily. The number of plates that were lined up there was 19. That number was one more than were lined up during the family conference every year. I can't accept it. Why can't I deliver it directly? Goda-san was flaring up at Genji, paying no heed to the pot that was boiling over. The master enjoys having his food alone in his study, so the food must be set out in the study. Of course, this is nothing new, you understand. Goda-san would really like to set the table for the master with his own hands, as he puts his heart and soul into his cooking. But the master had imposed a strict rule that none but the servants bearing the crest of the Golden Eagle could enter his study. So while Goda-san could greet the master from outside the study, not once had he been granted the honor of carrying his cooking into the study. Goda-san was always unsatisfied with this. Of course, he knows he is a newcomer in terms of years of service. However, he has accumulated plenty of experience from his previous jobs, and he is strongly confident that he would be able to conduct himself properly, even in front of Kinzo, in a way that would not insult him. And yet, just because he is not permitted the Golden Eagle, he still hasn't been blessed with this honor. You can probably imagine what damage that has done to his pride.
You might think that tonight is a mere resurgence of that old argument, but it isn't. Because tonight there is a person other than the master who wants their food carried to their room. Apparently, this person is a very rare and honored guest, and there has been a strict order to treat this person in the same manner as the master, the family head. Goda-san must have wanted to earn some points by serving this honored guest with his own hands, because he is a person of strong vanity. If he isn't qualified to serve the master, then at least a guest of the same rank. He simply couldn't make time during lunch, so Kanon-san had gone for him. Therefore, he truly desired to serve tonight's food personally, the best dinner of the year. But Genji-san had a problem with that. Something about how Goda-san didn't have the one-winged eagle. After being once again scolded that he wasn't qualified, Goda-san had lost his patience. Ah, how heartrending, Goda-san. I cannot do anything more than watch like this from the shadows. Kumasawa-san, if you have enough free time to dawdle around, please prepare the dining hall. Is the tablecloth ready? My apologies. When it became her turn to bear the brunt, Kumasawa softly disappeared into the hall. Beatrice-sama is of exactly the same rank as the master. We must respect the same rules that we respect for the master. Goda, you will devote your attention entirely towards the task you've been given and attend to the family. I don't mind if it's you, Genji-san, but is it really alright to let a child like this go to such a guest? If she made some blunder, it would be quite rude. I know that they have served here for a long time, but it's not as though they have undergone a proper apprenticeship. If you will allow me to speak freely, they do not have the proper grounding to entertain guests. Goda spoke bluntly, even though Shonon was waiting right there in the kitchen. Shonon was the one who Genji had ordered to carry the food to Beatrice's room. By the ranking system among the servants permitted to the Golden Eagle, Shonon was indeed the second highest ranked. If the highest ranked Genji went to set the table in Kinzo's room, then it fell to Shonon to set the table in Beatrice's room. Goda's pride was always horribly injured when he was confronted with this ranking system. In times like that, he would speak out bluntly and rudely about Shonon and Kanon. Not wise to do about people who outrank you. That's why you're not moving up the ranks, my dog. Goda kept raising example after example of Shonon's past failures, making a ruckus about how this was wrong and that was wrong. As Shonon listened to this with her head hung in shame, she heard Kanon's voice from behind her. Kanon had been listening from a blind spot, leaning against the hallway side of the wall near the entrance to the kitchen. He probably knew that if he entered the kitchen, sparks would start to fly his way. Let him rant. He's a horrible man.
But this helps me to build up a grounding on how to entertain someone. Goda-san has learned a lot, so what he has to say is very...
Huh. Nei-san, you sure are nice.
More importantly, is the guest in the VIP room really Beatrice-sama, as they say?
Yes. I met her when I was sent to set the table for her during lunch. There's no mistake. It's her.
Really? Is she doing well?
Kanon remembered that he and Shonon had different impressions of Beatrice. To Shonon, Beatrice was a cupid of love who had granted her magic to create her relationship with George. Judging by her happy expression, it looked like she couldn't wait to inform Beatrice of how her relationship with George had progressed. However, Kanon already knew. That witch had come here with a terrifying goal in mind. That vague witch, in the past only visible to them, had now walked in openly through the front door and had revived enough that they could now carry food to her. In the past, when she had disappeared from in front of Kanon, the witch had said something about how her own power was still weak. Now that the witch could appear openly like this, did that mean she had finally returned to her former power? And she had said clearly that she had sown the seeds of love with the knowledge that it would fail. She had said also, She had said clearly that the day had finally come when the door to the Golden Land would be opened. Mysterious. Shano. She will perform some bizarre ritual with the master and will surely do something unimaginably horrible. And no one can resist that.
What are you talking about?
She came here, as the master requested, so that the door to the Golden Land would open, and so that everything would be returned to the Golden Land. She said that to me clearly. In the past, the two of them as furniture working for Kinzo had been told what the opening of the door to the Golden Land meant. Therefore, even without asking a single question in response, Shannon understood everything. So, she grew deeply hopeless. Something tore at Kanon's heart as he saw her expression twist with grief.
How could... Why? Why now?
Didn't I tell you? We are furniture. Because you acted like a human, because you loved, you can't obediently accept the day when our service is over.
At one time, I used to wish that this day would come. But it never came after so much time. I didn't know how long we would have to be tormented as furniture. So I thought that day of rest would come for all eternity.
I thought that too, but I believed that it would definitely come someday. So I never forgot that I am furniture. But Nei-san, you forgot that.
It's my fault, isn't it? Mine.
Yeah, it's your fault, Nei-san. If only you hadn't known love, we would both be happy that this day has finally come. We built up meaningless attachments, even though it was a world that you would definitely have to leave.
Will the ritual begin tonight?
Yes. Also, she said this to me. Tonight, George-sama will probably give you an engagement ring, Nei-san. That was a fact. George should have snuck in an engagement ring in his pocket today, and surely he would hand it over tonight. She joined you together, planning to use you and George-sama as the sacrifices for the second twilight. Understand? Nei-san, she took advantage of you by tempting you.
So that was it. I never thought of that.
But she told me, she promised that if you don't accept the engagement ring tonight, she won't choose you as a sacrifice. I think that our chances of being able to go to the Golden Land together are very slim. There will be 13 people sacrificed. Only 5 will be left alive. The chances of us both being a part of that group are really slim. However, if you at least can take advantage of that promise, those chances rise higher. I mean, last time those last 5 got melted into goo. I don't know if they lived. I want to take that bet. Our salvation is in the Golden Land. If we can make it that far, we can become human. And I want to walk through this life as a human together with you, Nei-san. If we do that, we might even be able to achieve true love.
We used to dream about being able to go to the Golden Land, didn't we? If we go there, any wish will be granted. We will be saved from this pain. We believe that.
It's the plot of Wolf's Rain. However, in this ritual, only a few people chosen by fate and chance would be invited to the Golden Land. Everyone else would lose their life as a sacrifice midway through the ceremony. But in the past, Shannon and Kanon had thought that whether they reached the Golden Land or were made sacrifices, it would all be the same, because they would be released from their duties as furniture either way. So, in short, the ritual had been something that would definitely grant release to furniture like them. I don't like it. Together with you, I want to take back all the hard times we had. I won't become a sacrifice. You and I will remain alive, and we'll reach the Golden Land together. So I won't let you be accept that man's ring. If you don't... Hey, can you guys still hear me? It on my end, it died for a second there. But it looks like it's back. Tell me if I'm alive. I will not read anymore until I have confirmed I am alive. I'm back? Okay. So I won't let you become the sacrifice for the second Twilight. Please, Nason, don't accept that man's ring. If you don't accept it, she promised not to select you as a sacrifice.
That's something I can't do. Tonight's ring is very special. My heart won't permit me to not accept it.
Nason, the witch decides the ritual sacrifices arbitrarily. That witch has promised to overlook you at least, Nason. You at least will definitely be able to go to the Golden Land.
Me at least? What about you, Kanon-kun?
The witch's game is enough for me. I'll slip through her evil hand. How? I am not powerless. I'll grab that small chance and I won't let go. You are powerless. After all, our lives are temporary, aren't they? What made you think that you suddenly are empowered now as compared to all of this time that you've been living as furniture? Kanon. In order to begin our real lives, let's make it to the Golden Land. And let's gain our humanity. And then, maybe like you, Nason, I'll be able to know love. Maybe I won't have to call myself furniture and make people cry anymore. You don't gotta do that.
Kanon-kun.
I don't want to be furniture anymore. I'm gonna become human. Detroit. No more pain. I'm gonna end it all. It's usually like a suicide phrase. There were tears in Kanon's eyes. It had taken Kanon until now to notice. Shannon the one to know and suffer the taste of love. He had too. The tears Jessica had shown him that day, and her painful smiles on all the days since she tried to smooth things over and brighten her mood, had slowly wrought some kind of change on Kanon's heart without him knowing it. Shannon, I've been calling you for ages. Shannon snapped to reality at the sudden sound of Genji's voice. Where was she? Apparently she had been called for repeatedly. She hurriedly answered. I know that feeling, actually. Apparently I have been called for repeatedly. Yeah, that's a feeling I'm used to. When she turned around, Kanon had disappeared. It seemed he didn't feel like showing his tears to anybody.
Yes. I'm sorry for being distracted.
I had Kanon handle lunch, but properly speaking, as the next in rank after me, you should have been the one to take it to her. Beatrice-sama is the most honored guest of this house. There is no more honored guest than her. Please think of her as another master of the mansion and be polite. I must impress upon you once again, please be very careful not to make any blunders. It is quite painful for me to entrust this to someone inexperienced as yourself, but there's nothing we can do about the house's rules. I am sincerely counting on you. Goda had officially agreed, but he threatened Shannon with an expression that told her that he definitely wouldn't forgive any mistakes. Shannon, too, thought that Goda should do it if he wanted to do it that much, but considering it as her responsibility as one who had been granted the Golden Eagle, she had to give up. Besides, I wanted to meet Beatrice. What will I talk about? What will I ask? I don't know. Will I show gratitude? Or else grief? Or else what? I don't know. Shannon loaded the witch's food onto the serving cart and left the kitchen with a slow gait. More like gait. God damn it, I can't remember the subtitle of that stupid anime. Chiatai. Whatever. This is a bad joke. The person knocking was Kraus. Father, today is our annual family conference. Haven't the siblings gathered here to get a glance of you, Father? Ah, be silent! I have told you that I won't leave. I imagine that you are there, Genji. Why haven't you had my food brought here as I ordered you to? Kinzo screamed through the door. Genji was waiting behind Kraus.
Your meal has been prepared so that it may be carried to the study. However, Kraus-sama wishes for you to go downstairs tonight. Father, I don't mean every day. Even if it's just for tonight, won't you gather together with your family?
Who are you calling family? When did you start calling those vultures who wait for me to collapse and die family? When did you start calling rotting, gushing maggots family?
My.
Kraus shrugged at this answer, which he had half expected. Genji, carry the meal here as you were told. Why don't you listen to what I say? Why? Why?
Genji-san, I will leave the rest to you. My voice will no longer reach him.
Kraus gave his head a small shake and quickly turned his back on the door to the study. He had only called out for his siblings' sake, knowing it was useless. After Genji watched Kraus go down the stairs, he called again through the door.
My lord, we have finished preparations for the meal to be carried here. What about the serving for Dr. Nanjo?
Nanjo was also in the study. Because Kinzo had strongly pestered him about resolving their long-lasting chess game, Nanjo had been Kinzo's opponent since before evening. Nanjo had announced as a doctor that Kinzo's days were numbered. In that situation, if Kinzo pestered him about finishing a chess game while he was still alive, Nanjo couldn't refuse. Kinzo was thinking deeply about his move, concentrating more than usual. It had been Kinzo's turn for quite some time, and Nanjo, who was tired of waiting, had started randomly pulling out grimoires that he couldn't understand and skimming through them.
Kinzo-san, you couldn't think of a good move just by folding your arms and sitting in front of the board. I wonder if it wouldn't be good to take a break and refresh our minds.
Be silent. That should be good enough for defense. Will that hole be penetrated by the bishop or the knight? Today, Kinzo was insistent on a strong defense. Normally, Kinzo's motto was that offense was the best defense. However, today was completely the opposite.
I am also hungry. Shall we suspend the game here?
And I've used my head so much without a break that I'm already feeling dizzy. Any more of this might limit my ability to make my best moves. That is a problem. In chess, both players must always make their best moves. Other moves are painful to understand and ruin a game that is about reading thoughts. That considerably reduces our enjoyment. Kinzo sighed deeply and finally shifted his gaze away from the board. Chess needs an opponent. That opponent was tired and suggesting to suspend the game, so what else could be done? It is true that the goal of chess is for both players to aim for victory and make the best moves possible in order to achieve that. It is an intellectual game of being able to read each other. But Kinzo-san, are you forgetting that there is another goal separate from victory? What? What goal could there be other than victory? It surprises me you would forget even that. Through chess, you get to spend some fun time with your friend. You see? You got me. It's just remembering a game that I got into last year because I could play it with somebody, but then I can't play it with them anymore. And I was like, damn, I don't play that game no more. You don't play a game if you can't play with a friend sometimes. I believe those are words I said to you a long time ago. I shall have to concede that. Kinzo, who normally wore a frown, surprisingly relaxed his face and laughed. Nanjo felt like he had been reunited with a close friend he hadn't seen in a long time. That's how it is. Now that I've taken a shot back at you, what do you think? Will you go down to eat with me?
What do you say about discussing Kasparov's middle game over some coffee? A good plan, but I will refrain. I can no longer leave this room because the ritual has begun. Is that so? Well, my stomach is growling. I will go downstairs. Anytime you feel like it. Nanjo. Thank you. Oh, what could you be thanking me for? We didn't resolve our chess match. However, it seems that I have succeeded in that goal of chess which I forgot. It seems that was just as important as checkmate. This isn't like you. Why are you so sentimental? You said it, didn't you? My days are numbered. Now go, and don't come to this room again. We shall continue in the Golden Land. That is fine, but it shall be a rematch. Losing that rook was a serious blow. Well then, I will see you later. Yes, later. Maybe in the Golden Land, or in Purgatory, or in the next world. Nanjo didn't say anything beyond that, and with a practiced hand, he pushed the button on the table that would release the auto lock. Then, after looking at Kinzo's back one last time, he left the study. As he did, Genji's voice came from the hall. Well then, my lord. I will now carry in your dinner. It may be my last supper. I must savor it. Please get it ready. Certainly. Are your own preparations in order, my lord? Indeed. I have spent my time until today wrapping this room in a multitude of rigorous barriers. Even if that roulette chooses me, I will definitely repel it. I will remain alive, and I will definitely become one of those who reach the Golden Land. I will reject the visitations of the gods of death who try to drag me off to Hades. Man, I can't believe people haven't even started fucking dying yet in this chapter. I guess it was like this with chapter 1 too, right? It did take a while. I guess when I was told that this chapter was a bit shorter than chapter 1, I think I thought it would be even more shorter. That, or it's just going to ramp up incredibly fast and everybody's going to die really one after another. I don't know.
Excuse me. I have come to prepare your meal.
Shannon entered the VIP room, bowing her head and pushing the serving cart. The young woman by the window, apparently gazing out into the impenetrable darkness outside, was unmistakably that witch. So, it is Shannon this time. How nostalgic. Oh. Your countenance has improved quite considerably, has it not? Unlike Kanon. Almost beyond recognition.
Thank you very much.
Shannon solemnly prepared dinner. There were actually several things that she wanted to ask and talk with the witch about, but those things were all jumbled up and she didn't know where to start. Her heart was also jumbled up with various things and she didn't even understand her own emotions. Therefore, still remaining vague, all she could do was to carry out her work indifferently. However, the witch guessed what was in her heart. You can't hide things from a witch. Nope. Don't try it. I won't apologize, because I am a witch.
For what?
Come. Kanon must have told you about it. Helping out your love life was simply my mischievous spirit. It was nothing more than a seed I sowed in order to enjoy witnessing in what manner things would get complicated, become twisted, and fail.
There are some who think it is more fun to hear about love than to have it.
Surely, you aren't trying to thank me?
Yes, I am. No matter what kind of ulterior motive you had when you gave me the magic of love, it doesn't change the fact that you gave it to me. So even if you sowed that seed, knowing that the two of us wouldn't be able to stay together for life, I won't hold a grudge against you.
Furniture truly is uninteresting. Cooking it into something interesting is where my skill shines.
I don't understand how you think, Beatrice-sama. You are a great witch, and people like us don't even reach your feet. Nor can we even imagine your grand thoughts. But there is at least one thing I can say.
What is it?
Thank you for teaching me to be human. You said it yourself. I am no longer furniture.
Silence, furniture. If you were a true human, hearing the announcement of your death on the day that you were to receive an engagement ring should have you dancing around mad with grief. But what of you? Your face looks enlightened, as though you have accepted everything. Truly an anticlimax. Furniture.
No, I am not furniture.
Silence, furniture.
I won't be silent, because I am not furniture.
Are you saying you won't listen to my orders?
Furniture obeys orders, but a human decides for herself whether to obey orders or not. So I won't obey your orders.
That's like your whole job. You're about to get fired. I'll take back what I said. You really are interesting. If I hadn't sowed those seeds, you probably would have allowed the ritual to control your fate without any emotion at all. But now you have grown to be truly interesting, and you entertain me from the bottom of my heart. That is fine, because I have no love for boredom.
I have finished the preparations for dinner. Here you go.
Doesn't this look delicious? If Goda makes it to the Golden Land, it may be desirable to commission him as my chief cook.
I heard from Kanon-kun something about if I rejected George-san's proposal, you promised not to make me a sacrifice.
I did. Although you were an ideal sacrifice for the second Twilight. Kanon cried and screamed that I should pardon you of that, so I graciously listened to his words. With the condition that you give up your engagement. How gracious I am.
What a foolish condition. And what a foolish threat. You bullied Kanon-kun thoroughly using that, I suppose.
Oh, so you can tell. Apparently Shannon had seen through it. Apparently she could imagine how much Kanon had been bullied and humiliated by the witch with that horrible promise as bait. I made him crawl on the carpet and kiss my shoes. And that's not all. Do you want to hear the other ways in which I humiliated him? Shannon silently shook her head.
I have finally come to understand you. You like to bully, confuse, and trouble people, and you do it to entertain yourself.
Beast!
So I'm now sure that this is the only way to resist you.
What is?
I will have nothing to do with you. I will carry out the fate that has been given to me. So I won't entertain you.
Try to ignore the witch. I dare you. Nothing to do with you. The witch's features twisted in hatred for just an instant. It disappeared immediately, but that expression that rose to her face for only a brief time was unusual for the witch, who had never broken her malicious smile. I suppose that's one way to resist. Interesting. I like it. I'll kill you, together with your lover.
If that is the fate that you have decided, that is up to you. I won't be afraid of that or go against that. Because I don't believe that the grim fate that will start occurring now is something controlled by your will.
Ooh. Ooh. Spicy. Shannon with the fucking insight here.
I don't believe that the grim fate that will start occurring now is something controlled by your will. Now that is a diss. That is a bar if I ever saw one. And I'm sure she is spitting facts right now.
We humans don't know anything about our possible future fates. That is how we live to the fullest, following our own beliefs and destinies until the last. Fate is just a roll of the dice. You can't feel malice in it. Try as you might to inject some, I won't believe you.
Cooking with gas. Oh. Even though you have stopped being predator, you have no fear of death. It seems you think that will bore me, but that's a huge misunderstanding. I am now all the more interested to see whether you really can stick to that until your last moments.
It's so frustrating. Why did you take the form of a human, appear in front of us, speak with human words, and ridicule us? If you hadn't appeared in front of us, if you hadn't predicted the future, we would have been able to live life to the fullest until the last moment.
You thanked her for unlocking your humanity like 15 minutes ago. That's what witches do. We live off your fates, reigning as a high-order being does over low-order beings. You're just cows to me. Cows with big fat cow udder titties. Shannon in particular. After all, your fates are merely fragments. If we cup our hands together, we can scoop out as many as we want. In the same way that the beef cattle I raise can babble what they will, and it won't change the fact that they will add splendor to my dinner table.
We are powerless, so we can't go against your ritual or our fates. But I can do something that will make you unhappy right now.
She gonna like splash her, fucking knock her food on the ground. But you like cows? I like cows because they are just like people. I actually think in the United States, I think I would need a lot of data to be able to confirm this. But I think it may be possible that the like life experience of cows is about like on par with the experience of humans in America. That like there's a lot of cows that live in like really bad situations, but also lots of cows that live in like really, and like it's proportionally about the same. So like I think that cows and people have like a mutual cyclical relationship, especially in the US, where it's like cows wouldn't exist if we didn't eat them. We would have annihilated everything else. Like every other big animal like that we can't farm, we killed all of them in the US. Anyway. Oh, what would that be?
I will walk away from this place right now. Answering your words only entertains you. Not answering your questions is the only way I can resist you.
I see. You may be able to take a shot at me, but you cannot defeat me, you know. I have the power to kill anyone for eternity. I can't wait to see how long you can keep up that resistance in an endlessly repeating cycle of death and rebirth. Huh, okay. This is really interesting because she's talking to Shannon as though Shannon would... Like, she's talking to her fourth dimensionally, like, I'm hearing you say this now, but you don't understand that the way I'm going to approach breaking you is on a time, like a non-linear time frame. Like, you're going to have to keep this opinion even when I go back in time, restart this, and do something totally different with you, you know? Like, I suspect in the next route, Beatrice will take a very different tack with damn, why is her name Maria, right? Maria's the little girl. Why the fuck is her name not Shannon? Jesus. Beatrice is going to take a really different tack with Shannon in the next part, I would think. Because she's telling her right now, like, hey, I want to test your willpower through this cycle. Like, I think you're gonna do exactly what you're saying you're gonna do in this cycle, but we'll see how that holds up across multiple cycles. And I wonder if, like, at what point will this mean anything to Shannon? Like, can she extra dimensionally remember things across timelines? She's not in the current stable of people in the, I guess, are in the gold, or in like a, they're not in the Golden Land, they're in like a holding nexus, right? Like it's just like a sort of in between realm or something. I'm not entirely sure. All right. Don't forget it now. You spoke those words yourself.
Well then, if you'll excuse me, if you have any business, please call me.
Shannon gave a reserved bow as she went to a stranger and faced away. With that gesture, maybe she really had taken a shot back at the witch, just as Beatrice had mentioned. Because when the witch called out again, she sounded a little more quick-tempered than she had before.
Kanon thanked me. Aren't you going to? Not going to thank me for giving you your day of rest?
Furniture will be happy about their day of rest, but I am a human, you see, so I have nothing to thank you for. Will that be all?
You plan to receive the ring from George? Don't forget that if you do, I will abandon the promise I made with Kanon, the promise that you would not be selected as a sacrifice.
If there is anything further, I'll have someone else come for you. If you'll excuse me.
A flat-out interruption. Shannon gave no more answers, and the sound of the door closing came instead of an answer. It seemed that Shannon's resistance had probably struck far more deeply into the witch than Shannon herself had thought, because an expression of hatred had once again risen to Beatrice's face. I'm curious what this looks like in the original art, because here she looks a little bit more like consternated or concerned, maybe even constipated. She had made Kanon submit even though he hadn't been taken in until the end. Yet after that, now it was Shannon who refused to submit, when until now she had been easily taken in. Oh, this is interesting after all. I suppose I'm not so old yet. This is why I'm still not tired of living after 1,000 years. Wasn't that shot the one that's like on the intro screen, at least for chapter 1? The most fabulous time in the family conference. That was the dinner. Back when Kinzo had been serious about the family conference, he had placed extreme importance upon this dinner, for which everyone would gather just once a year. Should the dinner not meet standards, he would take it as the deepest shame for himself as the host. And he had strongly ordered Natsuhi to make absolutely sure that it was one to be proud of. Because of that, she and Kraus had employed Goda, who had confidence in his cooking abilities. As a result, they could unveil a wonderful dinner they had confidence in. Yet by that time, Kinzo had started closing himself up in his study and no longer appeared for dinner. Maybe you could call that ironic. I think he just doesn't trust Goda. I think they brought in this guy, and Kinzo was like, y'all fucked up. Like, I think that Goda is so antithetical to Kinzo's values that he took the hiring of him as like a sign that he had absolutely failed his entire family. He's just like, I can't believe y'all brought this motherfucker in here. I cannot believe that I failed so badly that y'all hired Goda. The worst guy. Just the worst guy. Goda's probably the bad guy. He's the murderer. He killed everybody. It's all Goda. He just seems like the type. You know? As a result, they could unveil a wonderful dinner. Yeah, okay, I read that. When the main dish for tonight, calf steak, was set out, Goda began to brag about it, further exciting everyone's appetite. I didn't say he was the witch. I just said he murdered everyone. Maybe the witch didn't do any of it. It was all Goda. The sauce here is Bordelaise. Of course, the red wine base I used was excellent, even among those made in Bordeaux. But in addition, I prepared an original blend of this house, a blend of choice alcohols from around the world to further deepen the taste. This sauce will be exclusive to this year. It would greatly please me if you were to enjoy yourselves. Isn't that wonderful? However, isn't Bordelaise sauce common to French cooking? It almost seems like using alcohol from outside France, but that is heresy. Gross-sama. Today is the annual family conference. As a dinner for those who normally live far away and have traveled far from across the world to gather together, I realized that a sauce made from a blend of fine alcohols from across the world that would normally never meet would be most fitting. So I had it specially prepared. Wonderful! A truly wonderful cook, that's what you are. Food and medicine work twice as well if you advertise it right. It's twice as delicious as normal food, and the advertising makes that twice as good as again. How much good food actually gets advertised? Usually you see the ad and it makes you want the food, and then you see the food and you go, oh, this is what it really looks like. The taste keeps doubling and doubling. Wario ass. Come on, Nissan. Didn't he see that question coming? No doubt. You let Goda-san run right off with your moment. Is that so? I just thought there might be some people here who didn't notice that today's food was in the French style. This fucking guy. Just now, Ava said that not using butter was a virtue, but that's the Spanish style. Dumbass bitch. Well, I guess they do share a border, right? That's not what I meant. Will you please not take a part of the conversation out of context and misquote me?
It's a very delicious sauce. Goda-san, you certainly are wonderful.
She's trying to get in with Goda. It is a great honor to receive your praise. I ship it. And this is all thanks to Madame's habitual guidance. Think about it. He could beat her daughter twice as hard as she could. Maybe 3 times as hard. I'm saying it's a match made. I apologize for that joke immediately.
No, it was all Goda's idea. I only listened to the recipe and approved of it.
It looked like the siblings quickly got into a loud argument about something as trivial as the sauce. But for the most part, dinner proceeded peacefully. However, the thing that they all really wanted to ask about smoldered inside each of their hearts. And that was the visitor, the 19th person. Yeah, so definitely people would have been dead by this point in the night in the first round. Because they didn't eat. They didn't want to eat because of the death the first time. So we're deeper into the night, I think. The golden witch. In actuality, Ava, Rudolph, and Kyrie were on alert during dinner. If the mystery guest was to be introduced, this dinner table was the most appropriate place to do it. However, no plates had been prepared at the table for the witch. The family conference would begin in earnest after the meal, and previous experiences told them that it could last until deep into the night. But they couldn't understand what meaning there could be in keeping this person who should be introduced hidden until late at night. Oh, the murders didn't happen until the second day. Right, because they wake up and everyone's dead. I forgot. I don't know why in my head it's all in one night for some reason. I keep forgetting that there was actually 2 days. So Ava, Rudolph, and Kyrie had started to suspect something. That the guest might actually be unknown to Kraus as well. If she wasn't a saboteur called by Kraus to give him an advantage in the inheritance problem, they should probably speak frankly to Kraus beforehand and create a common front to resist anything disadvantageous to the 4 siblings. If she was Kinzo's saboteur, whose purpose was to keep the inheritance from being handed over to the 4 siblings, the enmity between Kraus and the other siblings could become nothing more than a weak point that benefited the enemy. Well then, please enjoy at your leisure. With the table set and the cuisine explained, Goda tried to leave the room, but Kyrie called him to a stop with a small voice. Yes, Kyrie-sama. What is it?
I'm sorry. I thought there was a guest here today. Will we not be seeing her at dinner?
She had thought she'd said it nonchalantly, but unfortunately it reached the ears of Natsuhi, who was sitting in the next seat. It seemed that Natsuhi had heard it to mean, even though there are guests here today, won't the host be coming to dinner? In other words, that Kyrie had asked whether Kinzo was going to come to dinner.
The head's condition is not good, so he said that he will take his dinner in his study. My husband explained that in the beginning. Is something... I'm sorry. That's not what I meant.
In an instant, Kyrie realized from Natsuhi's reaction that this unknown visitor was also unknown to Kraus and his wife, and what that meant. On the chessboard placed inside Kyrie's mind, she could feel the arrangements of the pieces changing. Oh shit, it's turning around, making loud clattering sounds. She starts to hear the pieces clattering as the board is turning like the fucking tectonic plates. Oh my god. A guest? It seemed that Battler, who was sitting next to Natsuhi, had heard Kyrie's words without misunderstanding them, and he let out a wild voice questioning who else could have been invited to today's family conference. Thanks to that voice, the uncomfortable feeling in the siblings' chests suddenly exploded. Everyone looked at Goda at the same time. Judging by their appearances, it was obvious that at least no one here had invited that mystery woman. For an instant, Goda was startled to find everyone's gaze gathered on him, but because of his naturally vain personality, this actually gave him a feeling of superiority. That's fucking hilarious. Therefore, he answered in an extremely calm and graceful manner. Yes. She wanted to eat alone in the VIP room, so her food was carried over there. Therefore, Goda's extremely graceful and reasonable response made it obvious to everyone that a 19th person, a visitor, existed.
The VIP room? A guest? What and who are you talking about?
Natsuhi's words echoed the question that everyone who didn't know about the visit of the Golden Witch was thinking. Goda was slightly disoriented, as though he hadn't remotely expected to be questioned by Natsuhi. That honored guest had been spoken of so stringently. He hadn't imagined that Kraus and his wife might not have known. It is Beatrice-sama.
Beatrice! See? Beatrice is going woo!
Maria had been telling the other cousins over and over again that she had met Beatrice today. The cousins had answered saying, "Isn't that nice?" but they hadn't believed. So, their eyes grew wide. Sorry, I was sure you were just joking, Maria. So she really does exist?
By Beatrice? You mean that Beatrice of the Gold?
Ah! I've been saying she exists the whole time! No one believed!
Sorry, Maria-chan. We didn't mean to think you were an idiot. We just did. After learning that everyone had doubted Beatrice's existence, Maria, who had been in a good mood all day, completely lost her temper. George, who was sitting next to her, tried frantically to calm her. Goda? Is that another bit of dinner entertainment?
Quite a good performance. This fucking guy, dude. Aniki, drop the act. You called her, right? Called? Called who? From where? Nissan? Let's have a clear answer. Who is that? Surely you aren't going to tell us that it really is Beatrice from that portrait, right? I don't have a clue what you people are talking about. Goda, is this seriously not a joke? I was just ordered by Genji-san. Fucking Nazi.
Call Genji now.
When Nazi yelled, Goda shot out into the hallway. The sound of the door being thrown open at that time triggered a sudden uproar around the dinner table.
Rabble, 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 rabble. So you say you don't know either, Aniki. Who called her? Was it Dad? I don't know anything about this. Seems that you people believe that I have been pulling the strings behind the scenes, but that is a huge misunderstanding. Calm down, Krause-san. We aren't at the stage where we can sound each other out anymore. If you're saying that you don't know this mystery person either, the situation becomes ridiculous.
Hideyoshi-san, won't you be a little more discreet with your words? My husband would not invite unnecessary people to the family conference.
Honestly, what are you people talking about? Are you saying that the witch of the portrait is broken out of her frame and appeared? There's no way anyone has actually met this witch.
I met her.
Ava and Rudolph nodded at Rosa's proclamation.
Ooh, I met her too. Uncle Carl's believe. Believe, Mama.
The brief tension was broken, and Maria also started to make a ruckus. The room was by now chaotic.
I don't have a clue what's going on. So what's going on? The witch who gave grandfather the gold is appearing as a special guest in this year's family conference? But really?
Auntie Rosa didn't see it wrong, did she?
I met her too!
Being Maria is suffering. Auntie Rosa, are you sure?
Yes. Maria and I met her and even talked to her. I met her. That was definitely a witch. Believe me, I definitely didn't see it wrong or hallucinate or anything. What was that?
In the instant before the typhoon visited, Rosa had definitely met with the witch in the rose garden. But that scene had been so hard to accept as reality, and the more she spoke of it like this, the less she understood what it was she had met. Ironically, because she had lost her composure when she said that she had definitely met the witch. The more desperate she became, the more vague the witch's existence seemed. So it was a single composed sentence that affirmed her existence for certain.
I met her as well. We exchanged greetings. Well, they could hardly be called that. A few words at least.
It's definitely not something that Rosa-san saw wrong. Kirie-san, are you serious?
Yes, but she didn't tell me her name, so I can't conclude that she was Beatrice. However, sorry if this is subjective, but since I met her in the entrance hall, I was able to compare her face with the portrait. My first impression was that she was undoubtedly the portrait's subject. This is all just subjective, remember?
That isn't possible. In the first place, where did that woman come from? The only boat today was the round-trip journey, the one that escorted you all here. Was she riding on that boat?
I admit that's a bit of a weak spot. Of course, I have no memory of such a woman getting off the boat with us.
Oh, is it really? How can you prove that there wasn't a boat other than the one we rode on? You can't. You can't prove one didn't come.
That's right. You could prove it came. Someone who just saw it has to say so. But you can't prove that it didn't come. Even if everyone says that it didn't come, that they didn't see it, you can't deny that it could have come secretly. Sorry, I'm getting lost in the sauce with them saying come over and over again. It's that thing that they call the devil's proof. It's easy to prove that a devil exists. All you have to do is meet a devil. But it is impossible to prove that devils don't exist. Just because no one has ever met a devil doesn't mean that you can deny the possibility that they're hiding away somewhere that humans cannot go. You can't deny the existence. See, there's known knowns and there's known unknowns and there's unknown unknowns. Things you don't know, you don't. Anyway, until humanity searches the whole of space and can show perfectly that aliens don't exist, you can't be sure that they don't. And it's definitely impossible for us to ever check the entirety of space for the existence of aliens. Therefore, while there may be a number of ways to prove that aliens do exist, it is impossible to show proof that denies their existence. In that case, we would just be wasting our time discussing whether or not a boat separate from the one we rode on came to the island. She wasn't on the boat with us. That much is a fact, and she must have visited this island through some other means.
That's right. There may be no need to discuss how she came here. The essential point is the fact that she actually is in this mansion now and doesn't feel like having dinner with us.
Let's review. Right now, there is another guest on this island other than the 18 of the Ushiromiya family. And that is a guest that even Aniki and Natsuhime-san don't know about, right?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Be silent for a while. Your headache will get worse. It is as my wife says. I have no idea what you people have been talking about up until now.
Then there can be only one answer. Father called her for today's family conference.
For the family conference? And for what reason?
I don't know that. I thought you knew, Nissan. That's why I thought I'd question you.
Eva, could you give it a rest? One by one, the women are being silenced. Kraus Nissan said that he doesn't know. So, this is what we've got. Father stealthily invited the Witch of the Portrait as a secret guest. And Rosa-san met her, Maria-chan met her, and Kiria-san met her too. That's all we know for now. If she has something to say to us, she could just...
I don't know why that happened. I don't know why that happened. I don't know why that happened. I must have a bunch of new people here today because people keep asking about who I am and what's my pronoun. I must have I'm Trixie the Golden Witch here today because people keep asking about who I am and what's my pronoun. I must have I'm Trixie the Golden Witch. No more of this. Okay, I've killed it. I killed the playback. Anyway, go to Linktree/Golden Witch and you will find everything I've ever done. 20 years worth of internet content. It's overwhelming, but you'll get lost in it. You'll find a way. You'll find a way through the way of ever branching paths that is my career. Anyway. Oh, fuck. I don't know how many lines of dialogue y'all missed because I was sitting here just like full-throated voicing it and getting all into the scene, and then I look up and it was like, you're not live. And I'm like, motherfucker. I was giving it my fucking passion in that voice performance there. See if I can get that back. Okay. Let me humor you as best I can. You say father had a hidden child with a mistress of several decades past. And father searched her out and called for her here today. Is that what you want to say?
Dear, father would never have something like that. To waste the noble blood of the Ushiromiya family on a mistress. This is nothing more than a few people saying that they saw something. It's obviously a fantasy, a delusion, a daydream. Or are you all taking part in some kind of act to entrap my husband? What act? If anyone is acting, it's you.
Quit it, Aniki. She said it in a slightly reckless way, but Natsu-san is correct. Kirie saw her, but I did not. Neither did you, Aniki. But Rosa did. However, that means that she exists. Because there is someone who can prove that she exists, we directly conclude that she exists. It's the opposite pattern of the devil's proof. And I want to meet her too. And I want to ask her directly what kind of business she has with the Ushiromiya family. I agree with you on that. I truly wish to inquire as to what business she has on Rokenjima.
Don't act like you don't know. She is after one thing. It's father's inheritance. We should form a forward-looking strategy with a lawyer knowledgeable about inheritance issues. If the mistress claims the same rights as mother, then our shares will be cut right in half. But wait a second, everybody. Genji-san will come very soon. He knows everything. I'm sure he will answer our questions. Until then, let's stop talking about this. Come on now, kids. Sorry, but we adults have to start talking about something a little complicated. Go back to the guest house. Rosa yelled at the children slightly emotionally. That's what she does. The children didn't understand why they were suddenly being yelled at now. It's just Rosa. But Ava and the rest came to the same realization as Rosa after a delay. They were talking so grandly about the filthy topic of the inheritance in front of the children. There was no way that they'd want their children to remain here. So they all immediately agreed with Rosa's plan. That's right, just as Rosa-san says. George, take all the cousins and go back to the guest house. You all play nice together, you hear? Yeah, just go think about how badly we're all treating each other. Don't watch it happen. George, do as you're told. Take all of the cousins and leave right now. Wait a second, Mother. We haven't even finished eating yet. Fucking, yeah, can we get some to-go boxes?
And we still haven't had dessert! We will have Goda-san carry dessert to the guest house. So leave. Jessica, from here on, the adults will be talking together. Go. Fine. Even though it's only half eaten. So I guess I'm not going to be the only exception. Thank you for understanding, Battler-kun. But you're lucky, you know. Why? I'd want to leave if I could. I bet you would. I'll let you adults enjoy your happy family chat about the inheritance, and I'll be stuffing this turkey leg in my pocket. I will also leave my seat. You people are very unpleasant. It appears that I have no place here tonight.
Nanjo softly rose from his seat. He had been calmly watching the whole discussion from his seat at the farthest corner of the table without pointlessly interrupting. His reaction was very adult, like a calm old gentleman. It just occurred to me how funny it would be to do like an Umineko abridged, but like it's still like 55 hours long or something. When Nanjo rose from his seat, I guess the anime already is Umineko abridged. But if we like abridged the anime though down to an even shorter, it's like the 15-minute version of Umineko. How much could you communicate of the plot in that span? When Nanjo rose from his seat, it urged on the other people who were supposed to leave. As the children noisily rose from their seats, a commotion was heard in the hallway as the servants returned. I apologize for taking so long. I have called Genji. I was checking to see that all the doors and windows were shut, so it took me some time. My apologies.
Come on, children, to the guest house. Goda-san, I'm very sorry, but could you carry the desserts for the children to the guest house?
Fuck yeah, desserts. I see. This night just turned awesome for all of the kids. Is that what you wish? It seemed that Goda did not appreciate that the dinner he had worked so hard on was going to be interrupted like this. He sent Natsuki a look as though asking her whether that was really alright. Do as Rosa-san says. Also, it will not be necessary to set out dessert for us. Be sure not to approach the dining hall until we call you. Tell that to the rest of the servants too. Understood? Yes, certainly. Come, everyone. Shall we go? Maria-san, you too. You must not trouble your mother any further.
I want to talk about Beto. No.
Maria-chan, will you tell us about Beatrice in the guest house? I really want to hear about the witch. Okay? You're really good, George-san. I'm impressed. Are you sure you don't have kids? You're too used to this. I'm not going to make the obvious joke. I've made it too many times. Maria's mood was completely back to normal at George's words, and she even took the initiative in hurrying everyone to go to the guest house. It looked like Goda didn't like being kicked out himself, but he was unable to disobey Natsuki and left the room with Battler and the rest. Closing the door, shout out to Lapusha with the $5 Australian. I want a Brandon Rogers style live action Umineko abridged series on YouTube. Throw it out there, please make it happen. That's Brandon Rogers level of abridged. Would be nuts for Umineko. He would make a perfect battler. That's true. He would make a great battler, actually. He would make an awesome battler. He would make battler way better, actually. That would be hilarious. Yeah, the way his videos are written, like, where every sentence is so fucking dense, would be really good for doing an Umineko abridged, but it would be like incomprehensible. It would be fucking maddening to try to consume. I'd love to see that, but there's no way. Do you all have some business with me? Yes, we do. A bunch of it. And that goes for all of us. So much that we almost want to draw lots to see who asks the first question.
Though I believe that no matter who draws the winning lot, the first question would be the same. No doubt. Genji-san, answer us honestly. This woman called Beatrice in the VIP room right now, who is she? Well, you see, 50 years ago, your dad, during a period of economic downturn, while making a financial gamble on gold stock, Hideyoshi's claim that advertising doubled the taste was apparently right, because now it tastes like fucking dog shit. The kids in Nanjo, who had been chased out to the guest house, had gathered in the cousin's room and were eating the cake that Kumasawa had brought there for dessert. It was both wonderful and high class, with lavish amounts of cream and decorated deliciously with fruits. But even though it was delicious, for some reason, it didn't taste quite as good. Fucking Throw it out the window.
Without Goda-san's advertising, it doesn't taste nearly as good.
Is Goda-san really a good cook, or is he just a good hype man for food? Ain't good freaking luck asking Kumasawa Bachan for advertising. She'll just say it's made out of mackerel. Oh, everything is made out of mackerel, don't you know? Humans can only eat mackerel. Our appendix can't process anything but mackerel.
Really? You can make cake from mackerel?
Oh, you can make anything from mackerel, dear child. Oh, goodness, yes, this cake too. If you mix the squeezed juice of the mackerel in with the flour and eggs and bake it up, it comes out all fluffy. Oh. That would be incredible if true. Maybe mackerel cake will show up on the new menu at Father's stores. Because mackerel is full of nutrients and has a healthy image. It could be really popular with women and old people, but I'm not going to get anywhere near it. You sure are smart. You're outsmarting them marketers, Battler. You sure know better.
Girls won't eat something that weird.
Even old people would wish to decline. Yeah, fuck you, Battler. Oh, but it's delicious. Kumasawa was really raising the mood with the mackerel jokes that were her specialty. Sentences like this are my favorite thing about reading this. This is when you come upon just such a fucking preposterous statement. Screen capping this one. Those fucking mackerel jokes. Truly transcendent. Tweet that real quick so I don't forget that I screen capped it. Fucking mackerels. Ellen says, you know what doubles the taste of something? Stealing it. That is true. That also helps. You're like, damn, this was good and free? Fuck. Kumasawa was really raising the mood with the mackerel jokes that were her specialty, but the sound of the downpouring rain invariably focused their concern on the mystery guest. In the end, they ended up showering Maria with questions again, since she was the only person here to have met Beatrice. And by morning, they were all experts in the arcane arts. I never believed that story was true. From the way you say that, it sounds like this wasn't the first time you heard that Maria was meeting a witch, even if you didn't believe it.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty typical fairy tale for people of that imaginative age.
Exists! Beatrice exists. I'm not just autistic. Every year when we come to the family conference, I see her and we play together.
That's right. Although Beatrice-sama doesn't usually show herself, I hear that she sometimes unexpectedly appears before honest people with clean hearts to play pranks.
You seem honest and clear-hearted. Let me fuck that up for you real quick. Oh. Beatrice was a name which referred to the being in that fairy tale about the Rokenjima witch. Because the family and the servants publicly accepted the image of the witch of Kinzo's delusions to keep him in a good mood, it became established as Rokenjima's fairy tale, or maybe ghost story. To the family members who knew that history, the fairy tale of the Golden Witch didn't have much substance. However, they hadn't been able to say that in front of Kinzo. So to those who didn't know the history, like young Maria, for example, it definitely wasn't unsubstantial, but a real legend of a witch. So Maria believed in the legend of the witch. She swallowed it whole. That was unnatural for an imaginative girl who believed in witches, so no one said anything to betray her dream. On the contrary, they arranged things together to get her excited about her dreams. So even on those times when Maria-chan showed off candy and said that Beatrice had given it to her, I thought that somebody had probably slipped a candy into Maria-chan's handbag or something to create that impression.
I have also put on such performances on a few occasions in the past. Y'all could, like, not just tell her to her face that you've all been lying to her all the time. Secretly placing sweets somewhere for her. Probably Kumasawa-san too. No, I expect all of the servants and all of the Ushiromiya family have done it once or twice.
How the fuck she stay so skinny? So if it will make a small innocent kid happy, you sometimes plan it together and play some sweets in it. In that case, I'll bet you do that kind of thing all the time, right, George Aniki? Who knows? Admitting that would probably be unrefined. George admitted it while being extremely wary that Maria didn't find out. In other words, it's kind of like Santa Claus. To protect a kid's dreams, the parents plot together and lie, setting presents at the bedside of a child fast asleep.
I mean, you do want to protect kids' dreams.
Just give them cooler dreams.
As for me, I obviously found out that Santa didn't exist a long time ago. But if it was okay not to wake from that dream, I'd have liked to have believed it my whole life.
Why?
Because they know that the world is tough, adults want to at least protect the child's untainted dreams.
Not me. I'm trying to fucking make sure y'all know. I mean, this is why kids aren't supposed to watch my show, but this is all about mind break. This is the, hey, your brain doesn't seem strong enough yet. Let me see if I can crack that muscle and let you regrow it real quick or something, you know?
Ah! Beatrice exists! Exists!
Oh, goodness, certainly. Beatrice-sama does exist, you know. Some time ago, when I was drying mackerel to make some black tea, all of a sudden... Well, that's basically how it went, or at least how we thought it went. To sum up, she's a witch that supposedly no one believed in except for Maria. Those words don't quite explain it. It's not that we didn't believe, we were trying to let her believe. So this was about not betraying a child's innocence. I wonder if Beatrice would have stopped existing if, like, not for the fact that they all let Maria believe in her so much. Like, does she require, like Santa Claus in Elf, like an amount of belief to be powered? And so all of them empowering Maria is the only thing that kept Beatrice alive through a period of weakness. But then Maria's belief grew so much because she's so fucking, you know, haunted by getting the shit kicked out of her all the time that she actually willed her straight into existence. But now by convincing everybody else that she's real, then she's like growing stronger and stronger by the second. Anyway. But Santa doesn't exist in reality. If you don't want them to be all disappointed when they learn that, you should just not give them that dream in the first place. Did I think like that because I was still a long way from becoming a full adult? Battler had finally attained a level of understanding about the true form of the Rokenjima witch, but the current situation lay on an even higher level of understanding than that, and overturned all its premises. And that's all we believed the witch Beatrice-sama to be, but then she actually appeared. Right. Furthermore, judging from our parents' uproar, it looks like she wasn't an invited guest. That sounds kind of interesting. There actually is no basis to say that a woman called Beatrice doesn't exist. It's what Uncle Rudolph called a devil's proof. None of us knew that a woman calling herself Beatrice existed. But that doesn't mean we can deny the possibility that Beatrice exists.
Dr. Nanjo, you've been friends with grandfather for a long time, right?
There was a period when I was questioned quite a lot on this topic at the family conferences by Kraus-san and the others. The topic of whether Kinzo-san may have had a mistress long ago and even a hidden child with her.
I see. Our parents' heads are full with the distribution of the inheritance, so it's blindingly obvious that if the daughter of a mistress showed up, it'd mean trouble for them.
Kraus-san and the rest probably asked Genji-san about it first. However, Genji-san has sworn loyalty to Kinzo-san as his right-hand man, and is probably a more trusted friend to Kinzo-san than myself. I imagine Genji-san didn't tell them anything, and so they turned to me as his next oldest friend, I suppose.
And when all is said and done, Dr. Nanjo, did grandfather have a mistress called Beatrice?
He did. No, I have not met her. However, I have heard from Kinzo-san that he did have a relationship with a woman like that. He said that she passed away a very long time ago. I really don't believe that they ever fucked. She's dead? And did he have a child with her? That I do not know. But Kinzo-san always says that he is researching how to revive Beatrice. Usually, if one loses a lover and has a child left from them, they would pour all of that love on that child. Therefore, we naturally thought that there probably wasn't a child between Kinzo-san and Beatrice.
That makes that a devil's proof as well. It does. It's impossible to prove that he didn't have a child with his mistress. So now that she's actually appeared, we have to assume that he did.
That's a bit of a rushed argument. It's more realistic that someone caught wind of the trouble over the Ishinomiya inheritance issue, found out about grandfather's relationship with the mistress long ago, impersonated her, and is trying to work their way into the inheritance issue.
It is more realistic. However, we can't deny the possibility that she really is a hidden child who lived in isolation and forgotten by grandfather and who's returned for revenge, right? Revenge? The hell did that come from?
Sorry. I'm a guy, we just like to embellish things to make them more interesting. I've seen too many weird dramas. Normally, that would have been a light joke, but it had come when a mystery guest calling herself Beatrice, who no one had invited, had marched in on the day of the family conference, the day of the inheritance distribution discussion, which even without the witch was threatening to become a bloodbath. There was no way that Battler's joke would be welcomed with laughter. So it was a really big help when Nanjo laughed energetically to calm everyone down.
I see. That does sound quite interesting. I should love to read a novel with a plot like that.
Well, I don't think that could happen in reality. After all, right now on this island, there's 18 people, right? If she did something weird, we could immediately restrain her.
Oh, do you think so?
And thanks to the typhoon, she can't even leave the island. Basically, there's just no way she could even begin to pull off a crazy crime like that. I agree. In a dead end without any way to escape and in a situation where everyone is suspicious of her, I really don't think she could pull off a terrifying revenge tragedy like that.
I imagine not. If revenge was her aim, it would have been more realistic for her to come in secret without showing herself. You don't often hear about people appearing openly for revenge except in historical plays.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. Revenge is based on emotion, not frickin' logic. And if she wants revenge so badly, she's ready to give her life for it. She might not be much afraid of the police or the number of people, or that there's no way out. It's alright, Jessica-chan. Nothing as horrible as we imagine will happen. Like the battle royale between our parents over inheritance isn't horrible. You're right. Dad and Uncle Rudolph are pretty rough, and Auntie Ava's even trained in the martial arts. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Jessica didn't say it, but she had vaguely noticed that her own father opposed all of the other siblings regarding the inheritance. They acted like everything was good in front of the children, but when that pretense was lifted away, like it had been at dinner, it would become a tumultuous uproar. It was only natural that Jessica, realizing that, would be frightened that her father and mother had gotten into some kind of trouble, and were about to be sacrificed for something terrifying. Seriously, George Aniki's right. Nothing's gonna happen. Even if she pretends she's a witch. What can a single human woman who can't even use magic do? Can't even use magic, my ass. The sudden creepy laugh made all of us jump. And when we realized that this strange laugh was coming from Maria, we were shocked again.
So that's how it is. That's your perception, isn't it, Battler?
What is? Don't laugh all creepy like that.
You accept Beatrice's existence for now. At least you accept her as the 19th person and a guest. But that's all, right? You don't accept that the 19th person Beatrice is a witch, right?
You surprised us all for that? Of course I don't. There's obviously no such thing as witches. It's impossible for it to be anything other than a human woman pretending to be one.
That makes no sense, Battler. That's a devil's proof, you know. There's obviously no such thing as witches, but that just means you've never met a witch, and doesn't mean you can deny that witches exist, right?
That's right. That really is right. I can't prove that witches don't exist. However, even if I can't prove it, I can claim it. I claim that witches don't exist.
How? How can you claim that witches don't exist even though you can't prove it?
Because words are non-binding contracts. Because stuff like that doesn't exist.
And that's QED. Proof concluded without any evidence or bias. A classic example of how ignorance shelves its problems. A reckless suspension of thought.
In that case, I have one answer, Maria. The witch side has to show some proof themselves. This is also part of the devil's proof. If you bring one, it'll be over quickly. In our case, this lady calling herself Beatrice just has to perform some magnificent magic, like sending out some sparkling stars with her wand or something, and show us something that's impossible for humans. Right? You asked for it, dog. Oh, come on now, you two. Please settle down. Kumasawa noticed that the atmosphere between them was getting worse and tried to calm them. It seemed as though Battler quickly realized that he was acting immaturely, but Maria's expression didn't loosen. She kept staring at Battler as she laughed creepily. You quit it too, Maria. Let's get back into a good mood, alright?
If that's what you want, Beatrice will show you, I'm sure. Something impossible for humans. And then you too will believe, right? About Beatrice?
Sure. If she lets me have a look-see, I'll believe.
It's a chess argument between the witch and you, Battler.
A chess argument?
If you get checkmated, you will believe in the witch.
Oh, that's a stylish analogy. The witch shows her magic. My king is put into check. I quibble, saying that it would be possible to reproduce that by measures even a human can take and create an escape for my king. If I can't do that, it's checkmate. That's a pretty good analogy, I guess.
Battler, in chess, you and your opponent have pieces which move in the same way. That's why you can read your opponent's moves. But you know what? You haven't supposed that your opponent's pieces might be able to move in much more strange ways than yours. You've simply assumed that since witches shouldn't exist, the movements of Beatrice's pieces will obviously be the same as your own. But the thing is, sorry, Battler, but your chess partner isn't human. She's a witch. She can move her pieces in ways that humans can't. Right now, your perception of that is wrong. Battler, you like Auntie Curie's chessboard thinking, right?
Yeah. I like that style of thinking where you stand in your opponent's position.
And that's no good. Even though your opponent is a witch, you won't accept that. So you can't understand the moves a witch can make, and your chessboard thinking won't work. Your perception of your opponent is wrong. The very first premise of chessboard thinking is broken down.
Oh, is that what you say?
You cannot win in chess against a witch.
Sonata. Batora ba tora ba tora ba tora ba tora ba tora ba. Saint Seiya!
I do not know what happened after that. We servants were ordered not to approach the dining room.
I see. So, Shannon, have you ever met this person called Beatrice before?
I have no idea.
That was a slightly odd way to say it. I thought it didn't sound like she meant her memory was vague.
For us servants, Beatrice-sama is another master of this mansion. Some speak as if we spread that rumor due to having been influenced by the master, but since the time I started working here, the story of Beatrice-sama was always whispered about.
I heard about it before. How you'll get cursed if you don't respect her, and how there was a servant who actually had an accident this way.
Yes, but it's true that some people believed more or less than others.
Have they mentioned a servant having an accident before about this? I don't remember that being a thing.
I believe that respect for that sort of thing shouldn't be forgotten, so I have never doubted that she exists. I dimly believe that a uncertain being called the Golden Witch surely existed.
And then that witch whose existence was uncertain actually showed herself and came in openly through the entrance hall. Is that what happened?
I don't know. I don't know anything.
When you brought her dinner, did you talk about anything?
No, nothing.
I see. Man, she be lying. Still, a witch that eats food somehow doesn't sound so realistic. What? Fucking, when did witches not eat? What are you talking about? Maybe it's just someone who knows about the witch legend on this island, taking on Beatrice's name after all. I think you've probably come to respect Beatrice and think of her as something like a guardian goddess of the mansion. So when a person appeared actually calling themselves that, maybe you were a little disturbed.
Yes, I think that definitely could be it.
George was slightly at a loss for what to do about Shannon's downcast appearance. Possibly, not just Genji but also the young servants, including Shannon, had been strictly questioned about whether they had a clue as to who this person called Beatrice was, thinking that he had tried to cheer her up somehow. Like Maria and Jessica, Shannon too must be unable to completely hide her agitation over the sudden visit of a person calling herself the Golden Witch. He thought that must be the case, but George had no way of knowing what was in Shannon's heart. Shannon was bitter and sad. The door to the Golden Land would be opened. The witch had definitely told her that. That meant the demise of everything. Even if she accepted the ring from George, now they could never be married. No, in the first place, did furniture like her have the right to be married? Even if the witch hadn't come to tell her of their demise, wasn't it fated to fail sometime or another? Hadn't she turned her gaze toward the fun days with George and purposefully closed her eyes to the sad reality? What's wrong? You've really been seeming down for a while now.
George-san, what does it mean to be engaged?
Huh? It means making a promise to marry. But the way I think of it, it means the same thing as marriage. Honestly, I want to take you as my wife right now and take you back home. But right now, I am in the middle of training, and I'm still a long way from gaining the ability needed to create my own castle. That's why I want to become an independent man first, and only then proudly take you home with me. I'm not talking about the distant future. I just want you to wait a short 3 years. But even so, I don't want to lie about my feelings for the next 3 years. So I decided to give you an engagement ring. That might be a shameful reason as a man. An engagement because I want you to wait, because I can't balance a wife and a job might be shameful. But I will never...
Thank you very much. I now understand that to you an engagement ring isn't just another present you would give to a lover.
Of course not. An engagement ring isn't a simple accessory. It's an oath between lovers, a precious promise left in the form of a ring.
In that case, if we got married quickly, it would become unnecessary, right?
Then it wouldn't be an engagement ring I'd give you. I'd give it to you as a wedding ring. Either way, it won't change the fact that I'll give you a ring.
So it's like a sales contract saying this woman is mine, nobody touch her.
No, that's not what I... George knew about his shameful character. When he had fallen for Shannon and sworn to become an excellent man, he had sworn to part ways with that shameful part of himself. so he chose to answer a little roughly on purpose, believing that Shannon would find it reassuring. Your mind, bitch. No, that may be exactly it. Sayo, put this lock on your vagina. I'll make you my wife. I won't give you to anyone else. I'll make you all mine. So no one better lay a hand on you. That's what this ring is, without a doubt.
Thank you very much, George-san. I'm truly happy.
Then, George-san, if it was decided by fate that this engagement ring, that this promise would not be fulfilled, would you still give it to me? Shannon was about to ask that, but she swallowed her words, because George had already spoken the answer. George had said it. He had said that to him an engagement ring was infinitely similar to a wedding ring. Therefore, accepting George's ring had a far more sacred significance than a promise to marry. Which is why I will stop calling this an engagement ring. From now on, this isn't an engagement. It's a wedding ring. We're married now. This is how me and Bird did it, by the way. We just went like, you know what? We're married. And that's that.
Is that alright? Is it alright to just proclaim that we're married without God's blessing?
Yes, I declare it alright. Yeah, it's enough to tell God, Father, and Mother about it afterwards. You don't even gotta tell them. We'll declare that to the two of us have been joined in marriage. You don't even have to tell God for that matter. No one can overturn it.
George-san.
I'm not saying this because of a momentary emotion. I'm not just looking at how you are now. I'm looking at how you will be tomorrow and the next day. I'm even gazing at you as you'll be in old age, when those tits have sagged all the way to your knees as I said this.
You're always telling me about that, George-san. About how you want to spend your old age slowly rolling my tits back up into my bra, surrounded by sprightly children and grandchildren.
Yeah, at that time an older you will be beside me. Tits all flappy and dangly. That's what I predict. No, what I foresee. Yes, because that day will surely come.
Will it surely come? Is it okay for me to believe?
Yes, surely, definitely. And this ring proves it without words.
Show it to me, please.
Huh? Here it is. George, thinking he was being told to show her the ring, hurriedly took out the ring box. What was he wrong? Even though he had practiced so much, he hadn't been able to look cool. But Shannon wasn't looking at that. With a straight and direct gaze, with faint tears and a smile, she was staring right at George's eyes, no, into something she could see beyond his eyes.
Show me that future, please.
Yeah. I'll show it to you. For sure. I promise. And not just until old age. After we die, too. How? Are you going to pull that one off? Even if we become spirits, we'll always be together. I know this is the shit that men say to women all the time, but secular hoes work different, I guess. Shannon wiped away her tears and took the ring box. Inside was a diamond ring more than worthy of blessing the two of them. George said the line that he had practiced over and over again inside his head. I want you to put that ring on whatever finger you like, and have that be your answer. So by tomorrow morning. Shannon smiled, took the ring, and with a completely natural movement, put it on the ring finger of her left hand. Yeah, fuck you. I'm not even gonna let you. None of that wishy-washy, show me her fucking finger on her corpse shit. It really had looked like a very, very natural movement, and for a while George was stunned.
This is my answer, George-san.
Shannon? No, Sayo.
Even if we become spirits, we'll always be together, George-san.
There was no blessing from God, no pastor to witness, nothing. But the two to be married had proclaimed it. Two souls were joined here today. In holy the matrix-mony. right? No? No. Shh. I was really expecting that.
姉さんはバカだ。
Nei-san, you're an idiot.
そうかな。Am I really?
家具のくせに
Even though you're furniture.
家具の
Even though
くせに
you're furniture.
私、I'm not 家具じゃ
Furniture.
ないよ。もう。
Not anymore.
嘘だ。
Liar.
どうして自分を
Why are you
騙すんだ
fooling
よ。
yourself?
人間になんか
You
絶
know
対
that
に
you
なれ
can
ない
never
って知ってる
become
くせに
human.
黄金鏡へ行か
You
なきゃ
know that
人
you
間
can't
になれな
become
いって知
human
ってる
unless
く
you
せ
go to the
に。
Golden Land.
なのに
So why did you throw away the
どうして
promise that
黄金
enabled you to
鏡へ
go to the
契約書を
Golden
自分で
Land?
そっか。
Oh, yeah.
指輪を受け
By
取ったら
accepting the ring, that promise of being to Soma comes to nothing, doesn't it?
No.
Sorry.
ごめんね。
あとは
Now, me, you, George Sama, the master, each and every one of us is the same
ジョージ様も
conditions.
みんなみん
But
な
she
条
changed
件
it
を
from
満
an
たした
engagement ring to a wedding ring. Doesn't that mean there's a loophole and she's okay or something?
13人の生贄にされる
13 people will be made
5人し
sacrifices.
か黄金鏡
Only
に招か
5 will
れない
be invited to the Golden
その
Land.
一石を
And you rejected one of those places.
蹴るなんて
Yourself.
おかしいね。
That's odd.
未練があるの
It
は
looks like you're the one with lingering regrets, Kanon-kun.
Damn.
未練があるのは姉
Kick
さ
him
んの
while
方
he's
じゃない
down.
か
You're the one with regrets, aren't you, Nei-san?
婚約しちゃったん
You
だ
got
ろ
engaged, right?
果たせない運命
Even
だ
though
と
you
知り
knew
な
it
がら
was a fate that would never be fulfilled.
Yep.
ずっとずっと。
I promised that we would always, always be
永遠に一緒だよ。
together for eternity.
だからね。
So you know
そ
what?
の瞬間
In
に
that instant, our
私
eternity
た
was
ちの永遠
completed.
は完成
I'm
したの。
already dead.
たとえ
Even if we
私たちの
become
生贄になって
sacrifices,
し
it's
まうと
already
しても
completed.
だから
So
いい
it's
の。
alright.
未練があるのは
Kanon-kun, you're the
む
one
し
who
ろ
actually
カノ
has
君の
regrets.
方。私たちは
We're
カノなのに
furniture, right?
私たちは
No
どうい
matter
う
what
結
the
果にな
result,
ろ
we
う
will
と
be
も
free.
なら
In that case, it doesn't matter whether we go to the Golden Land or
な
not.
のに
And
カ
yet
ノ
you're
君
set
は
on
黄
going
金
to the
鏡へ
Golden
行くどう
Land.
しても人間
You
にな
want
り
to
たいん
become
でしょ
human no matter what, right?
どうして
Why?
人間になりたいか
Because
ら
I want to become human.
もう
I've
嫌
had
だ
enough of being
ど
furniture.
うして
Why?
I mean, I don't want to get sit on. I
恋がしたか
want
っ
to
たんだ
fall in love as well. Tears spilled from both of Kanon's eyes, and he howled. Both of them, not just
お
one.
嬢様のことが
I liked
好き
Milady,
だったそしてあの日の
and
お
after
嬢様の
seeing
姿を
Milady
見
on
て
that day, I started
も
liking
っと
her
好きに
even
なった
more.
そしてお嬢
And
様
when I heard that Milady also liked
僕
me,
の
I
こと
was
好き
really
とでも
happy.
僕は核で
But I'm furniture, and I can't accept
お嬢
Milady's
様の気持
feelings.
ちを
それが勘違い
That's where you're wrong.
私たちは
We
彼
may
女
be
人間にい
furniture,
た
we
かも
may
し
be
れない
less
で
than
も
human, but I learned that doesn't mean we aren't
恋をする資格がないわけじゃなかった。
qualified to love.
添い遂げられぬ
I
思い
believed that if we couldn't make those feelings
な
eternal,
い
we
方が
were
マシ
better
だって思
without
ってた
them.
自分の
I
計算
just
で生
decided
きて
that someday a day would come when I
そ
would
れがきっとお
disappear,
嬢
and
様
that
を
would
傷つける
definitely
なんて
hurt her.
勝手に決め
No,
つけ
that's
て僕が
wrong.
怯えていた
I
だ
was
け
just
なんだ僕は
frightened. I was just afraid and thought that if love could not be eternal, I was better off not knowing it.
セミは
Cicadas fall in love during a span of only a few weeks out of their whole lives,
わず
and
か
then
な
they
期間で
disappear.
恋をして
Is that a thing? Cicadas are have relationships?
数週間で終わる
I
恋
don't
だから
think
と
there are any cicadas that don't fall in love because it will be over in a few weeks.
It seemed that Kanon was still speaking of his regrets, but by now it was all jumbled up in his crying
あの
voice.
魔女が逃
I
げ
hate that witch. Why did she plant these feelings in
あい
me?
つ
If only she hadn't pulled that weird prank, I wouldn't have paid Milady any
ベアトリー
notice.
チェ様はひどい
Beatrice
ね
Sama is so cruel, isn't she?
カノン君に
To make you cry
そう
bitter
やって
tears, she
悔し
played
泣きを
games
さ
with
せ
your
る時
fate.
でも
But the witch
Imagine
probably
the
isn't
work
achieving what she
だっ
plotted,
て
after all.
Knowing love isn't a lingering attachment that ties you to life. It is the place we should reach on our journey through life. Real furniture hours.
というわけだ
So
か
there you have it,
せ
Kanon.
っかくの約
That
束
promise you worked so hard for has now
こ
come to nothing.
さてさて
Well now,
これにて全
with
ての
this the
駒の条
conditions
件
for
は
all
同
of the
じ
pieces are the same.
駒は
There are
18
18 pieces,
13
13 will
人が
be
生贄に捧ぎ生き
sacrificed.
残る5
Who
人
will
は
the
誰
5 survivors be?
それとも
Or
誰か
will
がこの
someone
儀式を
destroy
打ち
this
壊してみ
ritual?
せ誰が
Who?
どう
How?
これはチェスプロ
This
ブレム
isn't
で
a
は
chess
ない
problem.
対等な
It's a
ゲー
game
ム
on equal
わらわ
footing.
だけが一
I
方
won't
的
be
に詰め
closing
るわ
in
けではないそな
one-sidedly.
たは
You can frantically run from my advances and make it a tie, a result of no contest. Well, the best you can do is have that repeat over and over, and it probably won't be that difficult for you. However, these no contest results will continue forever, soon wearing down your mind and eventually killing it. At that time, you will accept your defeat and surrender to me. The reason I froze for a second there again. There's nothing so boring as a game you can't lose, you see? The way to defeat me, that is the epitaph offered to my portrait. That is both the way to open the door to the Golden Land and the key to destroying my ritual. I complete the ritual according to the epitaph. You solve the epitaph's riddle, destroy the ritual, and overthrow me. Solve the riddle hidden in the epitaph and expose the location of the vast gold I gave to Kinzo. What result will this game show us? I'm expecting a good fight from you. Entertain me, Ushiromiya Battler! Oh, new location. Yo, peep the style that the kids checking for it. My number one suggestion is you motherfucking floor it. I have no objections. Natsuhi and I accept it. I can't believe it, but I don't want to, but that is reality, isn't it? Natsuhi, choose your words more carefully. She is this family's most honored guest. We accept it too. There's nothing more to say. Yes, I accept it. I have absolutely no complaints. I can't believe that you really... I have to honestly respect you. Man, what the fuck did she do to them? Me too. Incredible. I genuinely respect you. So I have to accept it. I accept it too. Still can't believe it. But what can you do? You've proven devils. You win. The devil's proof was a convenient excuse that you liked using to show that something was impossible to prove. But now it's become your mortal enemy, has it not? Don't torture me, Great Witch. I've already accepted you. I resign. Kirie, do you still have any objections? I must have everyone in agreement. If you alone will not accept my existence... As the witch laughed boldly, the siblings started to panic. They were afraid of displeasing the witch. Kirie lightly closed her eyes and after keeping silent for a while, opened her mouth. My apologies. I resign. Only Kirie had faced the witch with stern eyes until the end. However, she had only been able to resist acknowledging the truth for a short time. The reality, the being that was before her eyes, couldn't be denied. Devils had already been proven. I also accept it. You are Beatrice, the Ushiromiya family alchemist, and a user of great magic. I must accept the fact that you are a witch. Well, shit. What the fuck did she show them? What did she do? Isn't it frustrating when you're like given every single meticulous detail of every single event in order and then it suddenly skips ahead to vague post in a way that completely changes what's happening and no explanation?
This is creepy. It feels like a jump scare is going to happen. How do I interpret this? Is this one of those scenes that's going to make a lot more sense later in the answers arcs? You going to say something, or are you just going to be there, Genji? Everybody's just around. This must be how they're ending the first night, right? Like, it's about to be midnight, and then who's about to die? Who's going to wake up dead? Or not wake up, rather. Who's not waking up in the morning? Beatrice! Gary always just said, "I am number one," seemingly apropos of nothing. I appreciate the ego demonstration, I guess. All right, the second day. Halloween. 6 o'clock in the morning. Did you ever watch Reboot? I only saw tiny bits and pieces of it. I think it just aired at an inconvenient time for me or something. So I never really understood what the fuck was happening on that show, and I did see it. I definitely wanted to see it because it looked sick, and I've always been really into 3D animation. When it's cool, you know. Anyway. Time for day 2. The real Umineko starts here, indeed. We got to at least get through the first discovery of bodies tonight. The fact the stream's kind of acting up makes me want to stop, but we'll go a little further. What was the sound that always filled the ears? The sound of the rain, the sound of a waterfall, or was it radio static? In that case, I want it to be the sound of blood flowing through the body. I want it to be the sound of the blood circulating throughout my body, telling me that I am still alive. Is it morning? The light entering through a crack in the curtain was faint, but at least told him that dawn had broken. Kinzo, still in the same pose he had when awoke, still sitting in his chair and looking up at the ceiling, felt the blood slowly travel throughout his body. Judging by the clock, it was early morning, 6 on the dot. No matter how tired he was, no matter how deeply he slept, he woke up at exactly this time, as though he had measured it with an hourglass. He didn't think that something like this was worthy of boasting of, but he had told himself that while he could do something like this, he was still in robust health. Morning has come, which means... I wonder how many of my children are dead. It seems that I've escaped being one of the first sacrifices. Was the result of the roulette fortunate, or is this the fruit of my efforts? It is irritating that I cannot tell the difference, but I will not say that. You just did. Kinzo was very slightly driven by a temptation to look at the other side of the study door, because he thought that maybe he might find the traces of a vain struggle to break the door, made by something trying to select him as one of the first 6 sacrifices. Humans are cheap creatures. They claim to do their best and leave the rest to providence. Yet when they are given good fortune, they desire to flatter themselves that it arose not from simple luck, but from their own ability. I mean, I appreciate the self-criticism, even if he broadened it out to humans as opposed to just me just now, you know. So he wanted to check whether there was a wretched mark on the door. That is only human. Therefore, Kinzo did not check. He repressed the things that he wanted to do because he was human. By that, Kinzo could immerse himself in a feeling of sufficiency, as though he had become a being that surpassed humans. He became aware of human desire and forbade it. Things that a human wanted to do, he resisted. This is why he's a fucking hikikomori. This eccentric and rebellious sense had surely given him a rare genius, which must have allowed him to succeed in his exploits as he revived the Ushiromiya family in one generation. Well then, Beatrice, what were the 6 pieces you took? And what will your next move be? Entertain me. My defense is perfect. I will not shame myself like last time. Don't you love when you wake up one day and suddenly you've surpassed humanity? Indeed, Ellen. The servants woke early. They had how many of them? They had to open the curtains, prepare breakfast, and complete various other tasks to welcome the guests to a new day. Godo was the most enthusiastic. He had been told to concentrate his efforts in particular on his work as a chef for the duration of the family's conference. And he had been specially exempted from the several tasks that servants normally must do. I get the feeling it's going to be just all of the parents, including Natsuhi this time. It seemed that Godo, who was a show-off, had a particular feeling of supremacy about that. He left the preparations of the inside of the mansion to Genji and the rest and worked on preparing breakfast in the kitchen. Genji split the work with Shannon and Kanon, and they carried out various tasks. Shannon headed to the dining hall and knocked. Last year, the family conference had continued into the small hours of the night. It wouldn't have been odd for this year's conference to continue all the way into the next morning. Are her eyes closed because she's like really eepy, or like, so she had knocked out of the consideration for the possibility that they were still having a discussion inside. But there was no response. I accidentally skipped the rest of that sentence.
Good morning. Is anyone there?
The room was cold, and it seemed that the conference had ended a long time before. On top of the table, there was a tea set from which they had probably been drinking, arranged in a way that would make it easy to clean them up. Cleaning away the tea was the servant's job, so if the family was too caring and cleaned it up themselves, the servants would lose face. Therefore, just doing this much for the servants truly was a pleasing act of kindness. As she approached the table to clean it away, she noticed that something like a memo had been left along with the cups. It had been placed together with the tea set, so naturally thinking it was a memo for the servant cleaning up, Shannon took it. Written on it was not a request nor thanks for preparing the tea, but just a single word. Shannon looked at it blankly and read it out loud. Chapel? Hmm? About to be a bunch of dead parents in the chapel. About to be a bunch of dead parents in the chapel. A small sound kept repeating over and over. It was a sound that would ordinarily have been trivial and insignificant. I hope I stop hearing it soon, then I could return to my doze, someone thought vaguely. But no matter how much time passed, the sound did not end. It repeated over and over. Ah, shut up. Who is that? Banging on the door constantly. As soon as she realized this, she woke up. Someone was knocking. Then she noticed that there wasn't just a knock, but a voice too.
Rosa-sama.
Rosa-sama. Rosa-sama. Good morning.
Wait,
Okay, one parent's alive.
I'm coming now.
It had been Genji's voice. Looking at the clock, it was still before 7. It was clearly too early to wake the guests. Did something happen that was bad enough to cause this? She felt her sleepiness increasingly fade thanks to this ominous premonition. Because Genji had been a familiar servant to Rosa since her childhood days, she opened the door a crack and answered, even though she was slightly defenseless in her pajamas. Good morning. I apologize for waking you this early.
Did something happen?
Yes. Actually, at the chapel. Genji spoke into Rosa's ear and told her something in a small voice. It seemed that Rosa couldn't understand what she was being told after only hearing it once, and after repeating the words back to him several times, she finally realized that apparently something strange had happened. Rosa closed her door for a second, and after changing her clothes, she immediately accompanied Genji and they headed to the mansion. The chapel requires some explanation. It wasn't in the mansion, but in a grove behind the mansion, which could be reached after a short walk. It had been built at the same time that the mansion had been constructed on Rokkenjima, so while its outside walls had been repaired many times, making it look new from the outside, it was a very old building. Rosa and Genji dashed through the rain together. Just like the previous night, the rain was falling in earnest. Eventually, they began to see the chapel beyond a sparse grove. If all she knew of it was its appearance from the outside, it might have felt like a place of dazzling beauty, where a pair of young lovers might want to hold a ceremony. However, it seemed that in Keen, don't worry, I'm sure there's going to be a fucking wedding ceremony held here between George and Shannon at some point in this goddamn story, right? However, it seemed that in Kinzo's eyes, this was a very sacred place, and Rosa and her siblings had been harshly told not to approach it unnecessarily. So even at this age, and no matter what the reason for it, she felt some guilt in approaching the chapel, and was gripped by the fear that this would surely make her father so angry he would slap her across the face. The servants' silhouettes could be seen in front of the entrance to the chapel. Goda, Shannon, and Kanon, which meant that all of the servants on the morning shift had gathered. A short while ago, Rosa had been told the nature of the situation verbally by Genji. However, without laying eyes on it directly, she really hadn't been able to understand. Probably all of the servants gathered there were the same. Without seeing it with their own eyes, they couldn't understand what was going on. Because on the door that was the entrance to the chapel, drawn very large with a creepy, sticky paint-like substance that made one think of blood, was something like a creepy magic circle.
What is this? When was it drawn here?
The servants looked at each other. Goda was the first to open his mouth. My apologies. We do not usually trespass here, so we do not know when it was drawn.
Then who was the first person to find it?
That was me. When I went to the dining hall to clean away the tea set, there was a memo with chapel written on it.
Shannon held out the memo with a shaking hand.
Whose handwriting? It isn't Nissan or Nasan's handwriting. And then you came here and found this, right?
Yes.
Rosa-sama, look at this.
What?
Happy Halloween for... what? Kanan was pointing at a single line of English written below the creepy magic circle. Until it had been pointed out to her, she had thought it was just another part of the magic circle and hadn't noticed it. Written there in English were the words, Happy Halloween for Maria. That's fucking awesome. The witch just left a room full of corpses of Maria's family members and the words Happy Halloween for Maria on the door. That's awesome. Gary always with $2 says, Rosa found a mess. Time to slap her kid. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to go for Maria. I get the feeling she's going to catch all the blame for this in about 5 minutes, so this is going to get fucked. Happy Halloween for Maria. A wish for an enjoyable Halloween for Maria. A creepy magic circle for Maria. Happy Halloween. The only person who said the words Happy Halloween to Maria yesterday, the symbols matched. The Golden Witch, Beatrice.
What about Maria? That kid should be sleeping with her cousins, right?
That's the wrong phrasing.
Did you check?
My apologies. We just now realized that Maria-sama's name is written here. We still have not checked. I shall...
What are you doing? I'll go check on Maria and come back. Also, inform Kraus, Nissan, and the rest. Receive their instructions on how to proceed.
After saying that much, Rosa finally noticed that something was out of place. Her own rank within this family conference was the lowest of the 4 siblings. In an abnormal situation like this, why had she been the only one called when the other siblings hadn't? Even if Maria's name had popped up.
Don't tell me. Huh? What?
Yes, we tried to contact Kraus-sama, but could not find him.
And Madam is not in her room. Judging by the condition of the sheets, she may not have returned to her bed at all last night.
Rosa felt something creepy crawling slowly up her back.
Did you check inside the chapel?
No, not yet. We did try to check inside, but...
Actually, the lock to the chapel is special, so the master key does not work. There is a single key which can open it, but that key is missing from the key box.
She didn't want to get any closer to the door with the creepy magic circle if she could help it. Rosa readied herself and approached and tried pushing and pulling the knob. All she felt was the resistance of the sturdy lock. We searched to see whether there was a window through which we could enter, but I think that in order to check inside, we would have to break one of the windows. What do you think?
There's no way I can give you approval to do that. It's Father's precious chapel. I can't do something like that.
Then the events of the previous day swirled around into the back of Rosa's mind. That's right. When I met that witch in the rose garden, didn't she hand Maria an envelope? Yes, I'm positive she did. When Maria had tried to open it, the witch had told her not to do that yet, and then she had definitely said the time will come soon to open it. Rosa had become convinced. There could be no doubt. That letter which had been handed to Maria. Gotta go read that shit. After dashing back to the greenhouse, Rosa approached the cousin's room while hiding her footsteps, softly opened the door and peered inside. From the inside, she could hear the healthy snores of young people. The 4 children were all there. Maria was there, sleeping soundly. After heaving a sigh of relief, she entered the room with quiet footsteps. She was after Maria's handbag, which was resting on the sofa. Maria always liked walking around with her treasures. She was probably imitating how her mother always carried her makeup with her. Of course, she was just copying her, so on the inside it was full of junk. In Maria's case, it was full of small, creepy, occult-like items and a notebook with things like that written in it. Doesn't sound like junk to me. Rosa hadn't once been happy to see her daughter walking around with those kinds of ungirlish things. However, after she had tried to force Maria to stop, they had gotten into a big fight, and she had decided to let it be. I actually think, like, witchcraft shit it's like, only girlish, right? Guys don't fucking carry around bags full of weird bullshit.
Here it is. This is it.
A western envelope with the crest of the gold eagle. When she took it out, she could tell that there was a heavy, cylindrical object inside. She could tell by its feel and its weight. There was no doubt. This was a key. After turning around and checking that Maria was still sound asleep, Rosa tore open the envelope and tipped out the contents into her palm. It was a key with an old and intricate design. Rosa grasped that key and dashed out. It seemed that Battler noticed those sounds, but after grumbling and turning over in his sleep, he started snoring again.
Genji-san,
源氏さん、この鍵。
could this key be the key to the chapel?
Where did you... Yes, this is the key to the chapel.
Rosa approached the creepy magic circle once again and put the key in the keyhole. There was a strong resistance. After it resisted for a short while, it stopped that resistance with a clunk. Then, squeaking with a noise that hurt one's ears, it slowly began to open. I guess they decided not to recreate the ear-bleeding sound effect.
Is anyone there?
Her voice reverberated throughout the massive room. Of course, there was no answer. The chapel had a high ceiling and the air was cold. And even on this rainy, unsettling day, for some reason it felt sacred. The servants timidly followed after Rosa.
Rosa-sama.
Rosa-sama, look at that.
Kana noticed it immediately and pointed. Over there was the altar. In the place where normally a pastor would preach of God's love, there was a table that shouldn't have been there. At first it looked like a dining table, and there actually were gorgeous plates and utensils set on the table, enough to make you think it was a child's birthday party or something. Upon closer inspection, the surrounding area had been decorated with pumpkins and black and orange ribbons. They were probably Halloween decorations. And there were people seated at the table. 3 people on each side facing each other, seated in chairs. They could be recognized at a glance. Kraus and his wife, Ava and her husband, Rudolph and his wife. But if you were asked if these were definitely them, you'd still have to go even closer to check. Because they seemed almost like dolls. Rosa and the rest had opened the door, entered all at once with the sound of many footsteps and called out asking if anyone was there, and yet there had been no reaction. Even assuming they had chosen to ignore them, normally you'd expect there to be some kind of reaction, and there hadn't even been that. So at first it felt like someone had set down some dolls that looked a lot like them. By now it wasn't just Rosa, Shannon and Kanon, even Goda. They were all fighting frantically against the rising creepy emotion tightly grasping at their hearts.
Nissan. Nissan.
As she climbed up to the altar, she called out again, but still the others gave no reaction. Yes, by now Rosa had accepted it. They were not dolls. She had accepted that they were those very people.
This is...
They approached close enough to be able to see clearly what was on the table. Just like their first impression, it looked like a lovely banquet, reminiscent of a child's birthday party. Plates piled up with sweets, glasses with lovely drinks, several ornaments in the shape of pumpkins. They were all decorated in a Halloween style, and while it might have been an irrelevant thought at a time like this, she thought that this would surely make Maria happy if she could see it. They were seated in front of that table, and it looked like they were sleeping. It was an eerie scene, as though a small, fun-looking Halloween party had stopped in time.
They're all sleeping?
When she approached even closer to them, she realized that candies were scattered all over the floor. There were candies in very fancy wrapping, cookies, fizzy lemon sweets, chocolates. And they were all distributed across the carpet, which was covered with blackberry and cranberry jam. No, that ain't what that is. Rosa and the rest finally realized what the situation was. It was a Halloween party, a banquet for those not of this world. Kraus, Nazi, Ava, Hideyoshi, Rudolph, and Kyrie, 6 people in all, were seated in the chairs, dead as though they were sleeping. How could you tell that they were dead and not simply sleeping? That was because they were, from their chests to their stomachs, vertically sliced open.
Kraus-sama!
How cruel. The 6 of them were seated at a Halloween party, all of them killed with their stomachs sliced open. Was the jam that covered the floor something that they couldn't finish eating, which had overflowed out of their stomachs? No. The contents of their stomachs had been splattered all across the floor. And that wasn't all. From their stomachs, almost as though they had spilled out sweets. Adorable. Candies and cookies, fizzy lemon sweets and chocolates had spilled out, stained with blood, and scattered across the floor. What could have happened to cause this? It was almost as though the insides of their stomachs had been stuffed full of sweets, and when their stomachs had been cut, it had all flowed out. I like it. Rosa remembered a gross-out meal, a turkey that had been served at her own birthday when she was a young girl. When she had put the knife in from the inside, her very favorite, but because no one had told her about it at all. Bright red, ketchup, omelet rice had poured out like blood-stained maggots. Gua, dripping, slimy, pulpy, sticky. What an interesting comparison. They put ketchup and rice inside of a turkey, and when she cut it open, she thought it was blood and maggots, because she had not been warned. The trauma of her youth was revived. Rosa felt a monster raging inside her stomach as the acid started to rise up. Unable to hold back, she threw up on the floor. Her empty stomach couldn't throw up anything but stomach acid. The scene in front of... Empty stomach? Didn't she eat just last night? This scene in front of her was no longer a fun Halloween party by any means. The 3 couples had been placed there with their stomachs vertically wrenched open with a goopa. Wait, a goopa. What the fuck? Lots and lots of sweets have been stuffed in there. Pulpy. Poogyuru-boogyu. Poogyuru-boogyu. What? Poogyuru-boogyu. Blood and guts and sweets were overflowing onto the floor. Blood-stained, sticky, sloppy, pulpy, sweet candy stuck to each finger. Gummy, gummy. Ah, but it's stained with their entrails. Sloppy, pulpy. What was that I stepped on just now? Is this like supposed to be her leaving reality? Like, is this Rosa's perspective just going like literally insane as she... I think that's what this is going for. What was that I stepped on just now? That didn't feel like a candy or a cookie or a fizzy lemon sweet or a chocolate. Ah, I'm so scared I can't even look at the bottom of my foot to see what I stepped on. Ah, look here! What a gruesome Halloween party. From far away, it looked really beautiful, fantastical, and fun. And when you see it up close, it's really terrible, disgusting, and yet still somehow beautiful. Rosa's wild thoughts tried as best they could to escape her throat with a loud voice that was neither a scream nor a roar.
This is horrible. Just horrible.
Ambulance! Police!
That's right. The police. Police.
Yeah, they're gonna do a lot. If a word tied to reality like police hadn't come out of Goda's mouth, Rosa and the rest would probably still have been unable to escape this nightmarish party. But that wasn't because they thought that the police might be able to do something. If they didn't say police out loud, it felt like another seat would be set up at this demon's party and given to them. It felt like their own stomachs were getting uncomfortably filled from the inside, rumbling, churning. It was surely because candy was starting to overflow from their stomachs. Rosa was again tortured by a desire to vomit and threw up her stomach acid on the floor, and then she searched to see whether there was any candy mixed in. Ugh. Rosa coughed violently again, then violently spat out the stomach acid that burned her throat onto the floor. She realized that by now her whole body had become covered in filthy sweat.
Genji-san, Shaman-chan, please ask Father for instructions. Goda-san, go together with Kanun-kun and call the police. Then have Dr. Nanjo come here and...
Have Nanjo come here and what? It's way too late for medical care. The servants accepted their orders and dashed outside. After watching, he could at least try to identify what the fuck happened to them. After watching them leave, Rosa once again fixedly cast her eyes upon her siblings, who had been through life's joys and sorrows with her and their partners. Even though there could be nothing more tragic, for some reason their fantastical deaths tempted her to describe them as beautiful. That was fun. All right, let's call it here. We saw the death. That's what I really wanted to get to. I'm sure this is going to be a long, less exciting scene. Or, very emotional as everybody realizes that their family is dead once again. Checking the profiles. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see here. All right. I don't think I've read them all since this chapter. I don't know if they're different. Aged head of the Ushirobe family, brimming with energy despite being pronounced to only have a short time left to live. Amassed a vast fortune, never made any announcement about his inheritance, which worries his children, influenced by the West, and a rabid fan of the occult. It doesn't sound new. Let's see what Cross says. Corpse found inside the chapel. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems his stomach was cut open and his intestines were pulled out after his death. Additionally, sweets and candies were packed into his stomach. Welcome, Maria. Happy Halloween. So Beatrice is the one writing the notebook now, right? Like, this isn't Maria's notebook, but Beatrice's notebook? Corpse found inside the chapel. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems her stomach was cut open and her intestines were pulled out after her death. Additionally, sweets and candies were packed into her stomach. See, didn't I tell you? Bellies are full of candy. Beatrice has a profile now. Mysterious visitor and 19th person who appeared on the day of the family conference. Goes by the same name as the Golden Witch who granted Kinzo his gold. Both the reason and the purpose of her visit are unknown. She was ushered into the VIP room, which no one has been allowed to use in the past. So I swear this outfit was designed to, make me upset. Ushiromiya Ava, a corpse found inside the chapel. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems her stomach was cut open and intestines pulled out after her death, and sweets and candies are packed into her stomach. Everyone has a belly that's filled with sweet dreams. That makes me think of pregnancy. Hideyoshi, a belly could never be full of disgusting things. Rudolph, that's why we want to be simple and sweet like candy. And Kyrie, so this dreamland is for you. Happy Halloween. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I don't think anything else is different. Interesting. Everyone with stomachs this time. No weird different amounts of face or whatever. It was all the same thing. That's interesting as well. Like, because why would it have been that they were all slightly different the first time? Or some of them slightly different the first time. But this time they're all exactly the same. That seems significant in and of itself, beyond like the method. Obviously, which is totally different as well. No face tearing, all stomach. Interesting. Again, this all seems like stuff that will this chapter definitely seems way more so than the first one, like a bunch of shit you're really not gonna understand until you come back to it after the answer arcs. Let's go ahead and make sure we've saved. Wow. And all right, everybody. Gouge the stomach and kill. Indeed. Anything else I needed to say before I go? I got a pee, so I'm going to wrap this up quick. Look forward to the Elfin Lead video on the 17th. Issue number 2 of Trixie's JPEG magazine coming very soon. Jujutsu Kaisen in depth. That's going to take me some time to do. But hopefully before the end of the month. Go rewatch Baby Stabber. It's October. It's Baby Stabber season. All right, everybody. Thank you and good night.